What's up, motherfuckers? Welcome to another episode of the Low Life Motherfucking Chopper Podcast.
Welcome to your motherfucking Friday. By the time this episode is hitting your ears, there is 1 week until the deadbeat retreat. So I hope you motherfuckers are getting those bikes ready. Throw this episode on while you're working in the garage. It's going to be a fucking blast. But what you came here for this week is an interview with the man himself, Mr. Loctite. And we're going to be getting into the whole backstory, where he came from,
Shit show.
how bikes came into his life, all kinds of crazy shit. But before we jump into that, we got to kick this off the way we always do.
Well, those motherfucking sponsors.
We're getting better at this. I know. I can see when you're going to say something now. It's perfect. 2 years
Up
to
first,
do that.
we got the man, the myth, the legend, motherfucking Chicken Fry Choppers, a.k.a. Chicken Rick, a.k.a. Long Dick Rick, a.k.a. ChopShit.com. Hit up ChopShit.com for all your stickers, pins, patches, hoodies, and shopper goodies. Rick is the man who brings the local craftsmanship all to one motherfucking place, gets you guys the right fucking deals with quality parts. Hit up Rick at ChopShit.com and tell him the boys from the motherfucking Low Life Chopper Podcast sent you.
Yeah, buddy. Next up, we got ChopCult.com, the #1 forum for chopper dudes and girls.
Fine, dudettes.
Dudettes, that's right. Everybody can get on ShopCult.com. Make yourself a username. Check out the forums. Check out the classifieds so you can go scoop those chopper goodies that you need. And scroll through the Rolodex. See who's riding around in your area. And last but not least, make yourself a build thread. Did I already say make a build thread? Either way, make yourself a build thread. That way you can look back at all the fucked up shit you did when you're in the motor, and when you know more, you can check to make sure you did it right. Lisa has been holding it down strong over at Chop Cult for 7 years. Long-time supporter of the show. We appreciate the fuck out of that. And you can find them at ChopCult.com or ChopCult on Instagram. Next up, we got Paco. 50 years in the game, and they are still crushing it to this day. They have all of the parts and accessories you need for your Harley Davidson motorcycle. They got frames, exhausts, transmission components, front ends, all kinds of shit. Head on over to Paco.com or Paco Parts on Instagram and let them know the Low Life Boys sent you. And next up, we got Lucky Horseshoe Customs and Keebler Customs out of Denver, Colorado, doing some of the dopest fabrication work, commercial work, motorcycle work, and everything in between, CNC cutting as well. These guys do a little bit of all of it, and if you're in the Denver, Colorado area looking for that kind of work, hit them up. It is Keebler Customs and Lucky Horseshoe Customs on Instagram. Give the boys a follow and let them know we sent you. And then last but not least,
we got Wes, the motherfucking homie at Custom Destruction, making the dopest helmets in the game. You can get a fully custom helmet, whatever color you want, whatever trim package you want, whatever inserts you want, through the homie Wes, for the same goddamn price as a stock helmet. So it only makes sense to fucking support the homie.
You could look like a big doofus wearing a fucking stock helmet.
Yeah, or you can look sexy as fuck, pounding all the pussy at deadbeat. Get that motherfucking helmet, the only helmet that makes the ugliest motherfucker look sexy. And this month's giveaway sponsor is the homie. You may have heard of him. He is the owner-operator of 812 Inc. Motherfucking Jerry! Coming in hot with this month's giveaway. It is a battle axe made out of a fucking Louisville Slugger and a brake rotor. Jerry's not fucking around. I can promise you this. So, this is the last week. Next week, we're going to draw the winner for this giveaway. So, make sure you get over to the Patreon, become a fucking supporter, and get over to 812 Inc. and follow my motherfucking boy.
Beautiful. We made it. Alrighty. So, with the business out of the way, I think we are ready to roll on into these motherfucking shout-outs. Who do you got this week for shout-outs?
I need a minute.
All right, let me take myself a minute here, too. Yeah, I got one here. All righty. First up, shout out to fucking Trey Kaczynski, who's going to be coming in for the Deadbeat Retreat, one of the lucky lowlifes getting a flight out here to Maine. We've been going back and forth on a bunch of welding-related stuff. This dude does a bunch of high-level pipe welding. Very cool shit. If you haven't checked out his page, it's Trey Kaczynski. There's an underscore in between there. We don't like to talk about the underscores, but it's there. So yeah, shout out to him, giving me some tips on some heavy wall pipe that I don't usually get coming over my bench at work. So I appreciate you, homie. Also, one more thing. Let me make sure I say the page correctly here. Hold up. Okay. He just started a business page as well. It's Sunshine Weld N Fab. Like weld, the letter N, fab. Sunshine Weld and Fab on Instagram. All one word, no underscores here. Super excited about that. So follow Sunshine Weld and Fab. That's his business page, and he's out in Rockport, Texas. So if anybody out there is in need of welding, repair, or fabrication work, I can personally attest to this dude doing some fantastic stuff. So give him a call. All right, go ahead.
Fuck. I don't even know if I have anything this week. This has been a tough week.
Let's see who else we got over here. Shout out to Gregory Goals, who's back. Oh, the video is still loading. Ooh, shit. Okay, so he says he added some new Go Fast parts to his sporty 2-in-1 exhaust from Lowbrow and a 42mm Mikuni. This thing is gonna fucking rip. Check out if you want to see the bike that we're talking about. It's Bula_scum is the Instagram. Oh, we gotta stop calling him sometimes Bula Scum and sometimes Gregory Goals.
Why?
Because people are gonna think it's two different people.
Oh.
Bula Scum on Instagram. Check that motherfucking bike out. Evo Big Twin. Gotta fucking love it. Oh damn, dude, look at this thing. It's mean. Got the 2-in-1 on that bitch now.
Oh shit.
Black 2-in-1.
I like it.
I dig it too. Give that man a follow. Who else we got here?
Shout out to Chopper Fisher. I know I do this every motherfucking week, but he's the homie. And I finally have seen the full edited version of my Greasy Dozen video. And goddamn, Chopper Fisher the fucking beast. I promise you, this could easily be put on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Easily.
I've seen it myself now. I can attest to this as well.
Yes. If you need anything done, any kind of photo shoots, any kind of product shoots, any kind of promo videos, hit up my boy Chopper Fisher on Instagram. Subscribe to his YouTube channel, which is also Chopper Fisher. And support the motherfucking homie.
Love it. All right. Shout out to Dustin of Sleep, who sent over a picture. Check this out. Take a look at this Loctite. It's a little foot peg shifter arm business. So he's teaching himself Fusion 360 and sent over a couple of designs which are looking awesome. And he said he's getting some solid aluminum practice in finally at welding school, which I'm glad to see welding school is back on in the middle of, I guess they got shut down for a while there. But he's back at it. I hope they get to finish properly and it doesn't get shut down again. Fingers crossed for you, bud. I think that's all we got for shout-outs this week. And because we have a lot of stuff to dig into here with this interview with Loctite, we're going to skip the long-form kicks in the dick. And we're going to do just our own 2 kicks in the dick. Because I got a big old boot in the motherfucking beanbag to Cycle Gear in Manchester, New Hampshire. Fuck this place. I am fired up about this. Very rarely do I feel this strongly about doing a kick in the dick as I do about Cycle Gear in Manchester, New Hampshire. Don't fucking ever go to this fucking store. God damn it. So here's what happened, right? I ordered a tire through them because they put the tires on for a decent price if you buy the tire through them. I called them today at noon on my lunch break, and I said, hey, I see the tire came in. Can I come by today and have you guys put the tire on? And they're like, yep, but you have to get here before 5:30 because if you come later than 5:30, we won't have time to put the tire on, right? So they're thinking about how long it's going to take them to put the tire on. They're talking to me about the fact that they're going to put the tire on. And I'm thinking the whole time, I don't care if they don't get to it today. As long as they get to it by the end of the week, that's fine, no biggie. I drive all the way, I rush home, get the fucking wheel, bring the wheel to them to put the tire on. And they tell me, oh yeah, I forgot, the tire machine broke 2 days ago, so we can't actually put the tire on until 2 weeks from now when the fucking tire machine gets repaired. And I said, hey, Justin, because I talked to you on the fucking phone and you're the one standing in front of me right now, why the fuck did you tell me to drive all the way down here if the fucking tire machine was broken 2 days ago? And he goes, oh yeah, I forgot. That's it. So I took the tire, I fucking left, and I will never set foot in this fucking store again. And for everybody out there who's like, maybe you're overreacting, listen, if I showed up without calling and I was like, oh, can you put this tire on right now? And then they said, oh, the tire machine's broken. I would say, fine. I didn't call. We didn't talk. There's no reason why I would assume that it'd get done. But you literally told me to rush here before 5:30 so that you could do it. We had a whole conversation about how long it was going to take you to do it. And then you fucking waste my goddamn time. I'll never go to that fucking store again.
Yeah, that's fucked.
Fucking place. Also, he was in there trying to tell some guy that his ears were crooked, and that's why the helmet wasn't fitting right, and that's why the speaker was sounding quieter in one ear, and that's when I knew this place was fucking horseshit.
Wow.
Yeah, the guy was like, that's not what it is. It's not that my ear is crooked, it's just that the fucking speaker's misplaced. And he's like, no, it's right in the middle. And I'm like, okay, I will never come back here, and neither will this guy in his helmet. By the sounds of it, I didn't get to stick around until the end of that conversation, but I hope him and his crooked ears got that all sorted out.
That's amazing.
Oh, man.
Ears.
It feels so good to get that off my chest. I was furious when I got home after that. I feel better now. Fuck you, Cycle Gear. Do you have any kicks in the dick this week?
I don't think anything to that extent.
It's understandable. It's a rare thing.
Yeah. I have a pretty light one. The Dunkin' Donuts that I go to every day. Fucking cocksuckers.
Uh-oh.
When I gotta go in the store to get my dip, it's in the same place as the fucking Dunk. So I get my chew, and then I walk over the Dunks.
Oh, man.
Every time I walk over this Dunks, I'm standing at the counter for 10 to 15 fucking minutes before anybody will come over. Nothing else is going on.
Yep.
They just feel like, I'll just do whatever I want. So today I lit that little fuck up and like let him know what was up. And I'm pretty sure next time he'll come right over. So fuck that kid.
You gotta let him know. You're like, listen, do you understand that I have a whole Instagram account dedicated to my coffees? It's at Loctite's at Iced Coffee, if anybody wants to give it a follow.
Yeah. So that's it. Pretty light week.
Good. That's not too bad. All right. So with that stuff out of the way, we are ready to get into this motherfucking interview.
Oh, shit.
With Loctite himself. I've been excited about this, man. We got a lot of stuff to dig down into here. And I think we should kick it off the way we kicked it off last week, which is give us a quick overview of the town that you grew up in, and then we'll go from there.
So that's a tough one because I never really lived in like one spot.
Okay,
for a long time.
We'll hop around. Let's go through where it started, and we'll kind of make our way across.
So when I was a baby, we lived in Boston. Well, not in Boston.
Boston, baby.
Not in Boston, but in Dorchester, pretty much Boston, right?
Yeah.
And lived there for a while. Shit hit the fan there. My dad was like, we gotta get the fuck out of here. We moved to Lawrence, which doesn't make any goddamn sense, because Lawrence is just as fucking bad.
Shit hit the fan like it got bad out there?
Yeah, it was like, it wasn't that great. Boston in the 80s wasn't really like the best place, so.
Yeah. That will do it.
So we moved to Lawrence, lived there until I was like 5 or 6. And then there was a shooting in my hallway. So we moved out of that place.
Fuck.
Moved to Haverhill, which is where I pretty much grew up.
Like, if somebody asks you where you're from, you would be inclined to say Haverhill.
Yeah, pretty much. I lived there from when I was 5 until 17. Then we moved, and then I moved back to Haverhill after we moved.
So give people an idea who aren't from this area where these places are in relation to Boston.
Haverhill is about 35 minutes.
Yep. That's
roughly about that. 35 minutes from Boston.
North of Boston, so you're going straight up.
Yep.
Haverhill's like right before you hit New Hampshire.
Right.
Because you hit Plastow right after Haverhill.
It's pretty much borders New Hampshire.
So that gives people a sense of you're going from city environment, and Haverhill is still a city. But
the side that I grew up on was still pretty much city.
Yeah.
Because like the two sides, like the Bradford side of Haverhill, which is kind of like more of like low key,
side,
like nice side. And then I grew up on the Ave side, which is like 4th Ave, 5th Ave, 6th Ave.
Yep.
And that's how it was like the shittier side, like the poor side. So I moved there, and I remember I think I started first grade there. And first day of school, getting ready for school, my dad walks us out on the front deck. And this is just me and my dad. And actually my sister, too. And
how many brothers and sisters?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 brothers. How many brothers?
4 brothers, 1 sister.
4 brothers, 1 sister. Okay.
And not at this point. At this point, it was just me and my sister and my dad.
Gotcha.
And so first day of school, me and my dad were sitting on the front porch, and this black dude hops the fence, running through our yard, and then all of a sudden, bang, shot. Here comes a cop, hops over the fence. So literally, first day of first grade, see a dude gets fucking smoked in my front yard. And at this point, like, moving wasn't a fucking option, because, like, you can only move so many goddamn times. Right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it was just more like a thing of, like, my dad didn't want us outside that much. But, so grew up in Haverhill until, like, 17. And then...
so you went there all through high school?
Yep.
Middle school, high school, all that.
And then, kind of, because we moved to another town. This is all, like, a Merrimack Valley area. Mm-hmm. And we kind of moved back and forth a couple times. So I was in Amesbury for a little while, and then back to Haverhill, and then back to Amesbury, and then I was like, fuck this, dropped out of school when I was 15, because my probation officer was like, either drop out or I'm locking you out. So,
hold on. How did we get the probation officer involved? We skipped some steps here.
Yeah, so we skipped a lot. So, all right, we'll start back. So this was the first grade thing, whatever. Dude gets fucking smoked. And fast forward to, like, middle school. And now I'm, like, super into, like, the skate scene.
Yep.
Not a professional skater. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't hitting up, like, vert ramps and all that shit. I was, like, quote-unquote, a street skater. Like, we skated the streets.
Yeah.
And so, like, heavy into, like, punk music and, like, fuck everybody kind of type deal. And, like, drawing fucking anarchist signs on fucking everything. Mm. And
that came back this year, huh?
Yeah.
Who knew? Early
this was before Sons of Anarchy, by the way. So pretty much like have like this fuck you mentality towards everything. And I think first time I got arrested was 6th grade for doing graffiti. And I graffitied the whole football stadium. Me and one of my buddies. Yeah, we stayed there for like 6 hours. Just graffitied the fuck out of that place.
So you've been a Rust-Oleum man from an early age.
Yeah. Been fucking with that rattle can since way back.
It's rattle can, baby.
So that landed me in court and put on probation immediately. They're like, listen, we could lock you up. You caused, like, I don't forget what it was, but it was like thousands and thousands of dollars of, like, damage.
Wow, I didn't realize they took the graffiti would have such a big...
Yeah, it was like a lot, because I guess it's like...
penalty for
the stadium is, like, old as fuck, and, like, you can't just, like, whatever. I don't know what the fuck it is. We got to
scrape all this lead paint off of here now.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck it was, but they hit me pretty hard. And then, I want to say, like, a week later, I was still graffitiing the back of this building, and it was, like, in, like, a shopping plaza. And we're just, like, graffitiing it, just being fucking punks.
Yeah.
And come to find out, they had surveillance cameras. Cops showed up at my house the next morning and had fucking blue spray paint on my fingertips. So
they identified you from the fucking cameras and found you?
It was literally down the hill from my house.
Oh, okay.
I shit in my own backyard, which was a terrible idea. So they found out that it was me or whatever and rolled back into court. judge was fucking pissed because turns out in that strip mall, it was a church. So we graffitied the backside of a church.
Yikes.
Which is not good. Ended up getting like, I forget what it was, like 100 hours of community service. Probation officer was pissed, talking about locking me up and blah, blah, blah. And at this point, like, so this is 6th grade going into probably the summer of in between 6th and 7th. Mm-hmm. Been arrested twice already. Already smoking weed, drinking daily, being a fucking just a straight up shitbag.
What are you drinking, beer or liquor at this age?
So at this age, I was just stealing. It sounds fucking absolutely retarded, but I was stealing 6 packs of White Russians.
Oof.
Yeah.
Well, for a kid, I mean, that's sugary. That's like a fun thing, right?
And like, it was the only thing I could get because it was the only thing that my stepmother drank.
Oh, the hangover must have been brutal, though.
It was terrible. So then, didn't get any more trouble that year. Rolled into 7th grade, and then like it really took off then. Like I was like so fucking out of control. And like pretty much not ever coming home, not going to school, constantly getting in fights. Got expelled from 2 schools in 1 year.
So what was your dad doing with all this? Like, was he...
My dad wasn't ever home because we grew up poor as fuck. And I don't want to say like poor as fuck, like we didn't have extra money.
Sure.
My dad like made enough money to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And he did paving, so he worked from 5 a.m. till like 10 p.m. So like I didn't see my dad. By the time he got home, I was either sleeping or gone.
So it was mainly your mom that you're seeing?
It was my stepmom.
Gotcha.
Who was a fucking cunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, she comes into the story in a little bit. So I was just like rebelling like fucking crazy because I hated her. She was a douchebag. And like didn't see my dad. Never, pretty much no contact with my mother. And just constantly fighting people and fucking... I think middle of 7th grade, when they kicked me out of that second school... was it 7th grade? Yeah. Yeah, so 7th grade, they threatened to put me in juvie if I kept it up. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just not going to go to school, which clearly was not the fucking right answer. So my probation officer locked me up for 30 days, which was fucking whatever. I was like, yeah, whatever.
In juvie?
Yeah.
What is juvie? I don't
it's just
even
like
understand
a juvenile detention. It's like jail for kids.
Okay, so it's like you go to, like it's an actual jail?
Yeah.
And
you get like locked in a room with like usually 3 to 6 people.
But this isn't like what's going on in juvie? Like, are people getting like into fights in juvie and like people getting beaten and shit like that?
Yeah. It's pretty much like a jail for kids.
I'm just trying to assess to what level kids in juvie are at. Like, is this already at like a scared straight level by the time people are in juvie?
Yeah,
Does that
it's pretty
take
serious.
a while to...
Yeah, like people are definitely throwing hands in there quite a bit. So I did 30 days, came back and thought I was the fucking shit. Because like at this point, we had moved back to Amesbury, so like people weren't doing this kind of shit.
Yeah.
And
Amesbury is right on the other side of Newburyport, right?
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, that area... Well, you can explain it.
It's like... so this is kind of the same thing as like Haverhill. It's like most of the town is like a really nice town. They used to build like carriages there, like for horses. Mm-hmm. And it's like all brick like walkways downtown. But then there's a couple like complexes that are just absolutely shitty. And that's where I grew up. It was called Macy Terrace. And pretty much anything with terrace on it, is a fucking shithole.
This is a good way to suss it out. Yeah.
So it was like the bricks, like apartments, and just all fucking low-income housing. Cameras on the fucking telephone poles and like all that bullshit.
And you're talking Newburyport across the river being like... 6-figure any house, or actually that's a ridiculous way to describe it because all houses are 6 figures. You're talking like $500,000 properties minimum, and it's like a boating town across the way. So that gives you a sense of like the kind of old money that exists over in Newburyport.
It's very weird. Like the cops didn't know what the fuck because there was like I want to say there was probably 4 apartment complexes like this, and all 4 of them were just like disgusting.
Yeah,
and started moving like to not going to school pretty much at all. Just doing my own thing.
Where would you go?
Just hang out, fucking smoke weed with my buddies, skate.
There's a bunch of other kids that aren't going
hop
either.
On a train to go to Boston and skate. And then the neighborhood like took a wild swing, and like, listen, I'm not saying like this is not like on some racist shit, but this is the way I can tell the story. Is a fuck. So it was always like predominantly like just like poor or like low income housing, like white people. Like, that's what the town was. And then a bunch of like Spanish people started moving in, and immediately it just like started this war where like the Spanish dudes hated all of us, like would fuck you up like when like you started like went outside. They just did not like white people for some reason. I don't know what the fuck the deal was. And especially all my buddies that lived there were all skate dudes, so we look like fucking shitbags. Right. And so it started like this war there, and it was pretty much like every time we went outside, like we were just fighting, and like the cops would come and like they would send like paddy wagons, so there'd be so many people fighting there. And
this is still in Haverhill, right? Or this is Amesbury?
This is Amesbury.
Yeah.
And I remember one time we were out in the parking lot, and this dude was like talking crazy shit to my cousin. And my cousin, like, super loud mouth, just fucking always running his mouth. And so my cousin dropped the N-bomb on him, and dude did not like that shit at all. So he just like walks off. Probably about a half hour later, you see like minivan rolling. It's like, so this place is like a horseshoe, by the way. So a minivan rolls in through the exit, and a minivan rolls through the entrance, and just like 20 fucking Spanish dudes jump out. And I'm like, holy fuck. And there's probably like 10 of us. So we start fighting or whatever, and dude pulls a gun. And not like aimed at me or anything, but he pulls a gun and he's like telling people he's going to fucking shoot him. And one of the neighbors had called the cops. And none of us know this, but so the cops like have the whole entire neighborhood surrounded. And like none of us know because like out on the street and like.
Right, you're in a horseshoe too, so it's not like you can see.
Like we can't see the main road. And so we're all up there just like beating the fucking brakes off of each other. And the cops are out on the main road, and they slowly work in from like each the entrance and the exit. And next thing you know, there's fucking 30 cops there, paddy wagon. And that dude ended up getting caught with a gun. All of us got arrested. And it was funny because like, when the cops pulled in, you could just hear like metal clanging across the ground.
Was that people throwing the gun?
People were throwing. So that dude didn't throw the gun for some reason. I don't know why the fuck. But people throwing like brass knuckles, knives, bricks. Just like any weapon they had, they're just chucking. The place like looked like a fucking pinata got blown up. And
a criminal pinata just like spewing on the ground.
Hold on. Yep. I gotta take this fucking dip out.
We gotta do the lip thing.
This thing is.
That was a monster lip. I'm surprised you fit that in that water bottle.
This thing is juicing way too much.
Yeah, see, this is the episode where you got to do all the talking, so it's tough to do the dipping at the same time.
So, so cops show up, everybody starts ditching their weapons. And I remember we're all in the paddy wagon. They put us all in the same fucking paddy wagon.
Wow.
So it's like all the white dudes just sitting on one side of the paddy wagon, on the bench, and then all the Spanish dudes sitting on the other side. Everybody's still going out, like kicking each other, spitting on each other. And all of a sudden, the cop opens up the rear door. Everything stops. And we just like look down at him, and he goes, well, we found this baggie, and it was like a little tiny baggie that like you put like, when we sold weed, like you put a gram in it.
Yeah.
And he's like, pretty sure there's heroin in this, so we're charging you all with possession of heroin. And the fucking bus just went nuts. Because like, nobody had fucking heroin, we're fighting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it ended up being bogus. Everybody got out on a $40 bail and just got fucking disturbing the peace charges, so fuck him, but... yeah, so that's pretty much like the life that I was living at 7th, 8th grade.
Shit was popping off already, huh?
Yeah, it was fucking ridiculous. I was a straight up shitbag. And then, trying to think here.
Did your sister get involved in this too?
My sister was a fucking... You would not know now because my sister's like the sweetest chick, but she was a bad bitch when we were growing up. Like, I always like just fought people. I think it was just because like... shit at home was fucked up, so I was just like fucking fighting anybody. And like if I started losing, she would hit somebody with a brick. Like she was fucking crazy. So right after this, I ended up getting in a bunch of fucking trouble. Same thing with these Spanish dudes. So it turned out they were Bloods, and they were talking about they were like gonna kill us and blah 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 and like shoot our houses up. So me being me, I'm like, all right, fucking bet. And went online on the fucking dial-up and printed out directions on how to make pipe bombs. And also, because I'm fucking ADHD, ended up printing directions on how to make crack, which is like absurd.
Well, while I'm on the dial-up, you know?
While I'm already here, and this computer's already made all this noise anyways.
That's right.
Fucking print out directions on how to make crack, which comes in the story later.
If you sell enough crack, you can get faster internet.
Yeah, so me and all my buddies start getting like on like some crazy shit, and like end up getting a couple guns and machetes, brass knuckles, made 17 pipe bombs.
Boy, do I want to know where you found those guns, but I won't make you say that on the air, so we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. And so all this shit was stashed at my buddy's house. And I still, to this day, don't understand why, but my homie that was like involved with us that we put at his house, he made like a list of these dudes' addresses and put it in the fucking backpack. And then also wrote down like notes on shit that he wanted to talk to me about next time I was up there. And one of them was blowing up squad cars. So his mom finds all this shit, calls the police, and so the cops find all this shit. They find what they assume is a hit list. They find plans for blowing up government vehicles. So they take all this shit in the police custody. Now there's warrants for our arrest.
Fuck.
And so I find out about this. He calls me. He's like, yo, my mom fucking blah, 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 called the cops. We need to go on the run. So me and him take off, and while they had this backpack in there, I don't know if they thought these like weren't real pipe bombs, but they were 100% legit pipe bombs. Mm-hmm. They had an impact igniter, so like when they throw, it would create the spark and then blow it up. And we had buckshot in there that I took because I was a hunter at this point. Yep. Emptied a bunch of buckshot shells in there and marbles and bearings, and it was fucking bad news shit.
Yeah.
And so these guys put this in their evidence room. And when they did that, I think it was like an hour later or something. Something happened, detonated the bombs, blew up the evidence lab in downtown Amesbury.
Fuck.
So now the whole downtown of Amesbury is shut down. The feds are there. All of the fucking police from all the surrounding towns are there. It's caution taped off. Nobody can go downtown. They have a fucking like national warrant out for us. And me and him were like, fuck this, we need to beat feet. And his sister had a place in Boston.
Yeah.
So like, fuck it. We're going to get to the train station, wait till morning, hop on a train, get out to Boston, and figure out our next fucking move. And so we broke into somebody's Bronco. And we're sleeping in the back of the Bronco. And I think it was like 3:30 in the morning. I seen like a flicker of light, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? So like, before I could even like get up and look, boom, window smash, and there's fucking dogs barking. There's like legit a SWAT team outside of this fucking thing.
Jesus.
Yanking us out of the fucking car, arrest both of us, bring us back to Amesbury, telling us we're not getting bail, charging us with terrorism and like crazy amount of shit. I think when I first got arrested, the cops said I was looking at like 18 years or something. And at this point, I'm only 16.
Right. So you're like, this is longer than I've been alive.
I was like, holy fuck. And so I'm like, whatever.
That seems outrageously high for conspiracy only.
Yeah.
You know,
so well, they got
action.
me on somehow. I don't know how, but they tied me to possession of firearms, possession of a deadly weapon, which is the brass knuckles and machete, possession of explosives, and conspiracy to something, government vehicles, and whatever the fuck they named the hit list thing. So yeah, I was like, holy fuck, dude. And my dad was there, and he was like legit asking the cop if he could like have 5 minutes in a room with me. Like, my dad was about to beat my fucking teeth down my throat. So whatever, ended up getting arrested, wouldn't give me bail, had to go to Middleton. So I'm in Middleton now when I'm 16 years old. And
you gotta tell people what Middleton is.
So Middleton is like it's classified as a minimum security prison because it doesn't have walls. but it has it has like a...
This isn't the farm, is it?
No. This is like an actual, like, prison, pretty much.
Yeah.
They hold federal inmates, state inmates, and county.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah, so it was pretty fucking serious. I think I was just about, or maybe I just turned 17. I don't remember what it was.
Well, yeah, it's in a place where you're held with adults at this point, right?
Yeah, so I think I might have just turned 17, and my buddy was 16, so he went to juvie. And then, so I'm in there for one night, go into court, I ended up getting bail, blah, blah, blah. Fought this for, I think like 6 months. And they ended up giving me, that was like 2 years of fucking state probation or something, and I had to do like 1,000 hours of community service. And the thing the way that I ended up beating this, at least not going to jail, was there was me and my buddy who were both like poor fucking shitbags, and then one other dude who came from like a very rich family.
Yep.
He lived in Newburyport. And
there it is. The Newburyport money has arrived.
So his family hired him like fucking O.J. Simpson's lawyer.
Yeah.
And every time he would beat a charge, we beat the charge because he was our co-defendant. So it was like his lawyer was doing all the fucking work and getting all of us fucking all the shit dropped.
How bad did this kid's parents want to beat his ass being from Newburyport and somehow getting involved in this like terrorism plot here?
Crazy. So what happened was they dropped a lot of the fucking charges. I got 20 months of probation. My younger buddy got 2 years in juvie because he was like fucking wilding out in the police station, telling them like he was gonna kill the cops and he was gonna shove fucking pipe bombs in their exhaust, like being a fucking lunatic. And then
that's a good way to get out of it. Yeah,
kid's he's still to this day a fucking animal. But so this rich kid, his lawyer got us out of all these fucking other charges. His parents made him enlist in the army immediately. They were like, listen, he's going into the military as soon as this is over, blah, blah, blah. So the cop, like, didn't charge him with anything, but put him on a continuance without a finding.
Yeah.
So which means that, like, if he did a certain amount of years without getting any other charges, this would be like it's called a quaff. And they would, like, pretty much, like, mute it off his record so he could still be enlisted into the military. And so that's what he did. He went right to the military. And
he's like, I could already make bombs. You guys should take me.
Yeah.
I could make, like, all your stuff.
Yeah. So, oh, fuck, I skipped, like, a big part of this. So,
go back.
Rewind real quick. When I was 15, my stepmom, so she was like I said in the beginning, a cunt. Beat the fuck out of me and my sister, like, our whole lives. And one day she, like, really fucked me up, pushed me down a flight of stairs. I was, like, all fucked up. So my sister, like, freaked out, went to school, and told the counselor. So the counselor obviously calls, like, the police and all this bullshit. And when my stepmom comes to school, she flips it, says I attacked her. So she pushed me down the stairs in self-defense. And, like, she obviously knew something was up because she came and she had, like, red marks all over her face. Like, I beat her ass. Never touched her. And so my probation officer lost his mind, put me in juvie for 1.5 years. And, so before I went to juvie, he put me in a foster home. And because I had arson charges, nobody wanted me to be in their foster home. Because when I was younger, I fucking lit this dude's fence on fire that stole my bike. But so I got an arson charge. And so I couldn't get a foster home. And they ended up putting me in a foster home on Nickel Street in Haverhill, which is a fucking shitty street. And got in trouble there. Started selling dope for the dude that was my foster dad. And
enterprising.
Yeah. So got in trouble and he was like, fuck it, I'm sending you to juvie. So sent me to juvie for 1.5 years. Came back.
That doesn't fall on the dad. That falls on you. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. So I came back when I was 17 and almost immediately got this whole fucking bomb charge. So it was like, my life was not looking good at this point.
Yeah, this is a wild turn.
Dude, my whole like childhood was just fucked. Like in and out of jail, always fighting.
How did it go in the foster home? Did you like the...
No, I hated it. I was the only white dude.
Gotcha.
Because this is like Nickel Street in like early 2000s. So it was like, Haverhill was all Spanish people. So I was the only white kid.
Oh, so the foster family was Spanish people too?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so I hated it. I was happy to go to juvie. And
they have other kids your age?
Not really. There was like some younger kids and then like... actually, yeah, I guess there was 2 dudes that were like 17, almost 18. And they were getting out when they were 18.
Other that's
Other
right.
foster
So
kids.
all the kids here are foster kids. And
Yeah.
it's not like...
And they don't do it because like they want to help kids out. They do it because they get a fat check every month.
Yeah, I figured that.
Yeah. So, whatever. So I ended up getting probation after all this bomb shit. And then my probation officer was like, listen, you're not going to school. Because like you're a fuck up and it just can't happen. This was before the bomb thing. So I dropped out when I was 16. And then that's when I got in trouble, like all the bomb shit and blah, blah, blah. So then fast forward, now I'm 17. I'm on 20-month state probation. And with state probation, I have to pay $250 a month. I'm fucking 17. My dad's like, I'm not paying it. Figure it out and go to jail for probation.
What does that mean?
So I pay the state $250 every month.
To watch you?
To watch me and give me random drug tests.
Wow.
Yeah.
You pay for it.
Yeah, crazy. So I'm 17 at this point, so I got to come with $250 a month. And which wasn't a problem because I was selling weed and Percocets at this time. But my dad was like, no, listen, you're not going to school, you're going to fucking work. So, which kind of helped me because I started paving with my dad.
Yeah.
And I think I paved with him for like 6 months, saved up enough money, moved back to Haverhill. So I got my first place when I was 17. And was commuting back and forth, working with my dad. And did that till I was like, I don't know, 18, 19. Decided fuck this shit and moved to, I forget. I don't know. So when I moved back to Haverhill. And which was like not good because I was selling drugs again and it was just fucking a shit show. But yeah. So then I moved to Lowell maybe. Mm-hmm. And met this chick, chilled with her, lived there for like 8 months, and that was obviously a fucking shit show. Cause like
so
I'm not
Lowell,
moving
for the people listening. Lowell is a lot like Haverhill, just in a different location.
Yeah,
it's pretty much the same town. But
that was like
the
problem. Was like I wasn't moving to a place where I was like setting myself up for like good shit.
Yeah, all these places are the same place except for Newburyport.
Right,
but yeah.
So at this point now I have a license and I got like super into building cars. Like that like started like taking my life over, which is probably a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Yeah, so I started building. I built my first car, I think when I was 17. Yeah, 17, because I was on house arrest for a while too for that bomb thing. And built my first car, was the 86 Mustang, I think. And yeah, so that took up a lot of my time. Ended up flipping that thing. And then got like deep. I know people are going to talk shit, but I got deep into building Hondas. And that was like 100% what turned my fucking life around. It just got to a point where it was like, I got so obsessed with building high horsepower motors with like a 1.6 Honda motor. Like
where's Postmobile right now with the 1,000 horsepower Civics, baby?
That everybody talks shit about, and that
the
was
unicorns
like,
of the road.
That was like my fuel to my fire. I was like, I cannot wait to pull up to that V8 Camaro and smoke him with this 1.6. And so I got like super deep into that. Learned how to build motors, like complete motors. I built a couple motors. I think the best one I did was like 600 horsepower. Just because I didn't have the money to be building like crazy ones. My buddy built one that was just under 1,000. It was like 9 or 8 something.
Yep. Still wicked fucking fast.
Yeah, crazy out of a Honda.
4-cylinder?
Yep. Just literally 1.6. Like that's such a fucking small motor. I think like stock they come like 92 horsepower.
That's the CB350 of the car world.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. But like when you fucking sleeving these things and throwing fucking 30 pounds of boost at them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that like took over my life. I moved out of Lowell and because I was sick of. It's funny because I didn't move out of Lowell because I wanted to change my life. I moved out of Lowell because all the Asian dudes kept breaking into my fucking car, and I was like, "Fuck this! This is bullshit." So I moved out. And went and stayed with my sister. And my sister probably, honestly, fucking saved my life.
Yeah, where's she at this point?
So she was in Amesbury with her now husband. And
this is Patty.
Yeah, Pat.
Nice.
And
I forget nobody calls him Patty.
So I went to her house, and I was still just like a fucking mess. Like I never got into like I was never like a junkie or anything. So like that's not what I mean when I say a mess. But like just like selling dope. And when I say dope, I mean weed. I never sold heroin.
There's a lot of disclaimers on this part of the episode.
Selling weed, selling coke, selling perk 30, selling ecstasy. And so I remember one day she comes home from work. And I'm not working. I just have money. And she's like, accepts it.
Yeah.
And so she comes home one day. Her boyfriend at the time, Pat, is fucking retarded. He's on like 3 fucking double stack ecstasy pills, smoked like a fucking, literally a 3 gram blunt. He rolled up an eighth into a blunt, smoked that with me.
Jesus.
So she's freaking the fuck out because he's retarded. There's 2 of my buddies in the living room. One of them was breakdancing. Like moved her couch and her coffee table into the kitchen so he could breakdance because he's all fucked up on ecstasy. So she's like, what the fuck? Walks in like through her apartment, opens up the bathroom door, and one of my buddies is sitting backwards on the toilet, blowing a line of coke off the back of her toilet.
Just getting into all the good shit, huh?
And this was at like fucking noontime, dude. Just like shit was bad. So she fucking lost her mind, kicked everybody out, and like sat me down and was like, look, I have no problem helping you, but if you're gonna be a fucking piece of shit, I don't want you in my life, pretty much.
Yeah.
And
a good talk to have.
Yeah. And like she's my baby sister, so I'm like, time to straighten the fuck up.
Right.
And so started doing the right thing, got a job as a mechanic, and started wrenching on cars and still building my cars. Met the mother of my 2 sons and started fucking with her. And that's like when I really calmed the fuck down. I moved to New Hampshire.
That'll do it.
Because that's what she
Coming
was.
Up to New Hampshire changes
so
everything.
I came to New Hampshire and it was like, it's fucking game on. Like, none of the cops knew me. And, like, I didn't have to deal with any of that bullshit.
Start wearing high-top boots with the pants tucked into them.
And like, here's the crazy thing, too, is like,
game.
all throughout my childhood, so my family, like, my dad's side of the family comes from, like, they were fur trappers. They did clamming, lobstering,
Yeah, because you said you were into
pigs.
hunting already at a young age, but you were in the city. So you guys must have got out to the sticks at least once in a while.
Yeah, so we hunted Mass. Mass has really good hunting. A lot of people don't know that, but there's a lot of fucking big deer in Mass. So I would, every weekend, it was like I would go off with my dad and me and him would hunt. We'd go to like Vermont or New Hampshire or Mass. And so I always had that. Like, I always loved it. It was my favorite fucking time. So when I moved to New Hampshire, I was like, I was still building cars and ended up getting out of the cars and started building trucks. So I started building like lifted fucking trucks, like huge motherfucking trucks. Like trucks with like, I think the last one I did was like a Dodge Ram with a 6-inch lift with 38-inch fucking mud tires.
Closer to God.
Yeah.
That's what it is, man.
Like, became full-blown redneck. Like, started hunting nonstop, fishing, trapping, like doing everything. And just met like a whole new group of people. Stopped chilling with the people from my old neighborhood. And, like, legit came a fucking redneck. People started calling me Fredneck.
Like, why have we not done this yet?
It was fucking crazy. And it was like a total life transformation. And so yeah, I like became a good old boy and like just like working, stopped selling drugs, working honest fucking job, and just like living the fucking good life. And it even like got to the point where like I became a sponsored hunter. Like people were sending me their products. If you go back far enough on my Facebook, you'll see this with me like selling deer piss. Like that's a fucking fact. Yeah, getting like free arrows. And like I was videoing all my hunts, and like it was fucking bananas. Like my life changed 100%. So then I had my first son, and that really, really calmed me the fuck down.
The kids will do that, man.
Yeah, and then so after that, we kind of fell in like some hard times a little bit, and moved down to Hampton Beach, which is like super tourist fucking place in New Hampshire, and started selling coke again. Like, started hanging out with one of my buddies, and I was like, fuck it. Got hooked up with him. And
Hampton Beach really ought to be Massachusetts.
It pretty much is.
With the way that it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it pretty much is. So, yeah, allegedly started selling cocaine.
Yeah.
And ended up getting into some fucking trouble with that. Beat the case. because it ended up being like an illegal search and seizure or whatever.
Gotta love it.
Yeah.
Some nice clerical error that lets you stay free.
So then, fast forward 6 months, I'm out Christmas shopping and get pulled over in Salisbury. This is where my dad lives at this point. He bought a house in Salisbury, right across the bridge from Newburyport.
This is the story I'm thinking it is?
Yeah, so my dad's in like a good life, like living fucking good. I haven't been arrested in fucking, at this point, 4 years. Haven't been arrested yet. And
which is amazing given what the story you were outlining before and how frequently things were happening.
Yeah, so everything's doing good, and I'm Christmas shopping one night and end up getting pulled over with my cousin, and had my gun in the car, and so the cop found the gun, all this bullshit, and ended up arresting me. Fought that charge for 2.5 years. Paid $15,000 for a lawyer. And ended up not beating the fucking case. Because you can't beat that case in Mass.
Yeah, so for people who don't know the situation, California is probably the only place stricter on guns than Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Massachusetts is like, not only are they strict with the laws and what you can do, but also it's extremely time-consuming process to get a permit, and they could also just deny it for any reason they feel like it.
Yeah.
And the AG has a gun list, the models you can own, models you can't own. They really make it
they have large capacity laws and like all this shit. So
getting found with a handgun in Massachusetts is basically you're going to jail.
Yeah, 100%.
There's no way around it.
So the night I get arrested, my cousin's with me in the car. They let him take the car.
You're a New Hampshire resident at this point, right?
Yeah.
So this is another thing people don't realize too. I'm sorry to keep interrupting this, but it's important to the story because in New Hampshire, constitutional carry is a thing.
Right.
So you don't need a permit, and you could go just over the line and you're completely legal to have that gun in New Hampshire. And then if you get stopped just over the border in Mass,
fucked.
You're a complete felon.
Yeah.
Just so people understand what we're talking about here. Continue.
So the night I get arrested, I let my cousin take the car. I tell him as they're like stuffing me in the cruiser, I'm like, make sure you call my wife. Let her know what the fuck's up. This is my ex-wife now. And go to my dad's house. This is a mile from my dad's house. So I get brought to the Salisbury Police Department. They do like the booking, all that bullshit. And I can hear my dad talking. And he's like, when's the bail bonds coming? Blah, blah, blah. So I end up falling asleep. And 3 o'clock, I can hear my dad like really fucking raising his voice. And the bail bondsman, he's there. Bail bondsman wanted, what the fuck was it? I think it was like $100 and something thousand for my fucking bail. And I was like, what the fuck? So I'm like, that's obviously not getting fucking paid. So the next day I go to court, and this is the day before Christmas Eve. My wife at the time is in the courtroom. My dad's in the courtroom. My son, Dominic, is in the courtroom. And my ex-wife is pregnant with my second son.
Jesus.
Yeah. So
it's a heavy situation here.
So I'm standing on the side of the court all shackled like a murderer. And I remember they gave this court-appointed lawyer, and I'm like, this dude's a fucking schmuck. Like a jelly stain on his shirt and shit, kind of schmuck.
Yeah.
So the DA is like, Your Honor, we're asking for $80,000 bail. And my lawyer's like, okay. And I'm like, what? What do you mean, okay? And I'm like, Your Honor, I want to fire this fucking, he's not my fucking lawyer. And he's like, first of all, do not swear in my courtroom. Second of all, if you want to fire him, that's fine. I'm like, I want to represent myself for this hearing, but I'll hire an attorney for the next one. And so I'm like telling him, I'm like, I can't afford $80,000.
Yeah.
And the DA is like, well,
get out of here.
Yeah, the DA is like, well, he has a long track record, blah, blah, blah. And thankfully, all of my shit was juvenile. All of my charges were juvenile, which was, it still sucks, like when they look at it. I was charged 17 fucking times, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like one of them is spray painting a fucking church and
but
pipe
they shouldn't
bombs.
be allowed to mention it, I don't think. I don't think they're allowed to bring it up.
So like they can't use it in a case, but they can bring it up as like, this dude's a piece of shit.
With relation to your bail.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, they wanted $80,000. And the judge looks at me and he's like, "Is that your wife?" And I'm like, "Yep." He's like, "And that's your son?" And I'm like, "It is." And I was like, "She's pregnant with my second son." And he's like, "Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt." And he's like, "Do you swear that you will come to your next court date?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And he's like, "If you can get $1,000, you can spend Christmas with your family." So I'm like, fucking A, dude. Going from $80,000 to $1,000.
Also, where's this fucking piece of shit lawyer
Gone.
that was over there just like, "Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't do fucking anything."
Yeah, he was gone immediately.
What a piece of trash.
Yeah,
huh?
I could not believe it. He was like, "Okay." So anyways, they ended up getting the bail money. Get out. My ex-wife, like, literally fucking wants to kill me at this point. Because now it's a mandatory minimum of 18 months. So that sucked. Fought that for 2 years, and within that 2 years, I said I got like a good fucking life. Was working a great fucking job, making good money, living in a great house, had 2 motorcycles, a truck, a car, snowmobile, like fucking everything. I was killing it.
Yeah.
And I remember getting to the point where I was like, I'm just so done with like the stress of going back and forth to court every fucking month. 24 fucking times I went to court.
That's a lot of times.
So I told my lawyer, I'm like, today's the fucking day. Like, we're figuring this fuck out today. Go to court, and dude, it's like I don't even know how to explain the feeling, but like, when you're fucking standing in a courtroom and they're like, guilty, and then the judge like hands you down a sentence of 2 years, it's a fucked up feeling. You know what I mean?
I can't even imagine.
And it was weird because like I wasn't like scared, and I wasn't like, I don't know. It was a very weird fucking feeling. Like I was ready to just like get it done, get it over with, and like get on with my fucking life. So what I ended up going to jail, got in a bunch of trouble when I first went in, because so the place that I was at is predominantly like white dudes are the minority. And like I hate that my story is so much like racial shit in it, but like the only way for it to make sense is to bring the different races into it.
Yeah.
So this place is very segregated. The Spanish people stay with the Spanish people, the black people stay with the black people, the Mexicans stay with the Mexicans, and the whites stay with the whites. And there's not very many white people there. So spent the week in infirmary, and then because it was so backed up, finally made it to a block. First night, got in a fight, got put in the hole for 30 days. Which sucks, because like when you're in the hole, you don't get any visits, you don't get any canteen, you don't get anything. Came out, was out for a day, got in another fight, back in the hole for 60 days. So it's like, at this point now, like this stay is like not being good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they transferred to a new block after that, and got in 2 more fights, but didn't get in trouble for that because it was like in a cell. And after that, I was just like, I'm fucking done with this shit. I pretty much never left my cell after that. Just stayed in there. And so I had this sports before this all happened, by the way.
Okay.
My dad gave it to me beforehand. And so while I was in there, I like designed this build in my head. Like I knew when I got it, I was building this bike.
Sure.
Along with other things, I was like, I had a whole plan of starting a company and all this bullshit. And so that's what I did with my time. I taught myself how to draw like better than I could. And started doing tattoos, all that bullshit. But anyway, so then the chick I was with, my ex-wife, ends up selling all my shit, leaves me, goes to another list that just like moves in with another dude. So now it's like I get out, all my shit's gone, my wife's gone, my kids are gone. I'm a felon, so I can't get a fucking job anywhere. And the point for all this is like I hate when people say, and like again, I'm not saying like I'm better than anybody, but I hate when people say when you grow up in like these poverty places and like dealt these shitty hands, they get guaranteed a shitty life. Like that shit pisses me off because like if you just listen to this fucking story, and like I've done fucking almost 4.5 years in jail since I've been alive, and right now I'm on a fucking $700 plus salary a week, have a great fucking place with 20 acres, fucking 5 motorcycles. You know what I mean? It's like where you come from, the shit you've been through has nothing to do with what your fucking future is gonna hold for you.
I think if more people felt that way, people's lives would be so much better. There's nothing more depressing to tell a person than the place you were born and the circumstances under which you were born.
Dictates what your life is.
Who
It's
would
absolute
ever
bullshit.
want to go through their life that way?
Right.
Believing that.
It's like it's fucking absolute bullshit. I'm not saying I'm this huge success story, but like I grew up getting my ass beat by my stepmom, not knowing my mother, in and out of jail, like looking at fucking 19 years in state prison. You know what I mean? Like, had a pretty fucked up life, and I'm doing okay for myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I hate when people say that kind of shit. And like the white privilege thing, like I know we don't talk politics on here, and I'm not going to get into politics, but the whole white privilege shit is absolute fucking dog shit bullshit. Like, where the fuck was my card with all this shit?
Right? Where was the white privilege when you didn't beat that gun charge?
And I'm not saying white people don't get like special treatment. Sometimes they do. But it's not just fucking white people. I don't want to get on a tangent on that, but I'm just saying
that it's connected people
yeah,
get special
100%.
treatment. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. It matters who you know.
Right.
And I think that's what people miss.
So that's going to bring me to this next point. Like, this is... People are probably just, like, not ever going to listen to this shit again after this episode. But this brings me to my second point is this whole, like, fad of fuck the police and all cops are bastards and, like... Listen, I get it. Your boy has had his fucking run-in with the fucking cops.
Yep.
And I'm not saying I'm like this fucking cop fan, but I also don't run around every chance I get into every human I see and say all cops are bastards. You know why? Because I don't have to flaunt it. You know what I mean? I hate people that feel the need to say all cops are bastards. That way people think that they're cool and that they grew up in a punk scene or they, you know what I mean? Like, these motherfuckers that are saying all cops are bastards, the hardest thing they've ever fucking woke up to is their dick. Like, I'm just so sick of, like, this stereotype bullshit. Like, cool, you hate cops? That's fucking cool. But, like, it doesn't...
you got a speeding ticket?
Yeah, like,
somewhere?
It doesn't make you fucking cool to say all cops are bastards. And I'm not, like, saying cops are fucking great people. Because cops make fucking shitty decisions sometimes.
Because they're people.
Right.
Yeah.
But to say... Like, the amount of times I've heard people say all cops are bastards, like, we fucking get it, bro.
Yeah, I get it.
It just doesn't make
trendy
sense
right now to say, you know, fuck the cops,
right.
defund the police, all cops are
like
bastards.
My whole life I've grown up as like, fuck the government, fuck the cops. But like, you don't hear me on every episode. I'm not like, what's up, motherfuckers? Fuck the police. I don't say that shit. Because I know in my heart what I fucking believe, but I don't feel the need to say it to people so they think I'm fucking cool. Like, I hate this whole like trend about like, you have to do this and do this or you don't fit in.
Right.
Like, it just, every time I hear somebody say all cops are bastards, I'm like, cool, so you can't form your own fucking opinion? It just drives me nuts. Like, I get it. Hate the cops. Don't hate the cops. Whatever the fuck you want to do. But stop saying it because it's a cool thing to fucking say. Like, just hate them if you hate them. Yeah. It just drives me fucking nuts. I absolutely hate that shit.
I agree. I think there's a lot of that shit going around. A lot of people are just, like you said, riding that wave. There's a lot of people pissed off at the police. There's a lot of people playing exactly the opposite card that we're talking about here, where it's like, oh, well, the only reason I'm not successful is because the police.
Right.
Or because this or that, and I have no agency in my own life, and it's just other forces that are holding me back, and nothing has to do with personal responsibility or my own fucking decision making.
Right.
And you're a great example of the fact that
and like
couldn't be less true.
I want to make it clear, like, I'm not like glorifying the police by any fucking means. I've been put in a hospital because of a fucking cop before. Like, had my fucking face split wide the fuck open by a cop. I'm not glorifying police. But I'm saying every time you say all cops are bastards, you sound retarded as fuck. Like, you sound dumb as fuck. You might as well say, I don't know how to be cool, so I'm going to say this. That's what it sounds like to me every time I hear that. It drives me mental, especially by people who have never done a fucking day in jail. Like, you've never even, the closest you've seen a fucking cop was driving by one. Like, I just hate that shit so fucking bad. But, anyways, back to the fucking story. So, I get out of jail, and I literally have nothing. Everything I own is gone. The only thing I have left is my Sportster. So,
this is the story of so many Sportsters.
So, I hit the fucking streets running immediately. Within a week, I ended up finding a job, thankfully. I found the welding job that I've talked about before. Thankfully, they did not care. I was fresh out of fucking prison. And gave me the fucking shot, and I just knew, like, I need to fucking get my shit together. I need to get my kids. and that's it. So
yeah. So what's the situation with the kids? Like, does your wife, ex-wife now have full custody?
Yeah. So technically, she didn't have full custody because we weren't technically divorced. I couldn't get divorced in jail. So she has the kids living with her in Chelmsford, Mass. So they're like a good, and I'm staying at my dad's place.
I will say, Chelmsford is a nicer area.
Yeah, it's not a bad place. So I'm staying at my dad's place in Salisbury because obviously I have no other fucking place to go. It's about a 45-minute ride, something like that.
It's not close at all.
And right out the gate, she wants $100 a week for child support. Out the gate, like which I'm saying the day I got out. So I'm like, whatever, I gotta make it fucking happen because I know if I don't, I'm not gonna see my fucking kids. So got a job, started working 60 hours a week, welding. Within a month, had both of my boys living with me.
Kind of welding.
Stick welding.
I don't want to derail the story, but I'm a little curious. 70-18 all day?
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice. Right, keep going.
So got both of my boys, and they've lived with me ever since. They've been with me full time for 6 years.
So you got them back after you got out, got back on your feet. You took the boys back.
Yeah.
Did you have to fight her on that?
Nope.
So she went from like, I want $100 a week to like, why don't you just take these two kids?
Yeah, and I took them, no child support. I was like, I don't need shit from you. Just
you didn't even, just as a joke, I want $100 a week?
I'm like, I don't need nothing from you. I'm like, just come see your fucking kids when you're supposed to see them. Don't lie to them. Because that's what I grew up with.
Yeah.
And so they're living with me. And, sorry, hold on. I missed this huge step. So I'm working at the fucking welding place and pretty much only doing that. And then, but I was kind of like going through like this fucked up phase where like I was drinking every night, like a lot. And I was chilling with one of my homies that like I grew up with in the old neighborhood. And he was kind of going through some shit. So we just like chill every night and drink like a fuck ton of alcohol. Not even beer. Which is
so weird because since I've known you, we both kind of met each other post insanity periods.
Yeah.
And I've never seen this type of behavior. So it's outrageous to even hear this story.
Yeah.
The thought of
so
you was like
I'm saying
some liquor.
Literally drinking liquor 7 days a week. Like not even like sipping on liquor, like crushing bottles of whiskey. Like drinking a bottle of Jack every night when I got home from work. And like
because
to the
this
point
is also
where, like,
pretty close to when you got out of jail too, right?
This was as soon as I got out of jail.
Yeah.
So like I'm like,
so you're home, you're free,
right? And like I was trying to tell my dad that, but I didn't tell us in the beginning of the story. But my dad was like a pretty bad alcoholic when I was a kid. Him and my mom split when I was a year old, and he was drinking a 30-pack starting at 6 o'clock in the morning.
You meet your mom?
Huh?
You mentioned your stepmom in the very beginning. Do you know?
So I know my mom, but we didn't really form a relationship until I was like 16, 17 years old.
Oh, okay. So that's way down the road.
Yeah, like she would take us like once every couple months for like a night, or like it was just never a relationship though.
You still keep in touch with her?
Yeah, so we're pretty close now, which is fucking weird. But yeah, we're pretty close later, now. Yeah, like I would fuck somebody up for my mom, and like she knows like shit was fucked up when I was a kid, but she's still my mom. I'm a firm believer of like you got one dad, you got one mom, and like you fucking kill for those people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so my dad, he would start drinking like 6 a.m., crush a 30-pack by noon, and then start drinking Jack Daniels.
A 30-pack?
A 30-pack.
Jesus!
7 days a week.
Oh, my God.
And then start drinking Jack at 12 o'clock. And I got to the point where he went to the hospital, and because he was having like wicked bad pains in his stomach.
I bet.
And from so much alcohol, he ate the lining to his stomach away. And he was like... The doctor was like, if you continue to drink the way you're drinking now, you'll be dead in a year. Like, 100% you will die. So, he ended up getting clean, because, like, I found out about this. I heard my grandmother talking about it. I was 2 years old, and went out in the yard, and I was, like, obviously sad as fuck. And I'm like, I don't want you to die. So then my dad, like, immediately poured out his bottle of Jack, went in the house, locked himself in the bedroom for 3 days, and detoxed. And for anybody who doesn't know, like that's the one detox you can do that you can actually die from. You can't die from coming off dope. You can't die from coming off cocaine. But you can die from detoxing from alcohol. And like you like hallucinate and like it's fucking bad. So he did that, got clean. We moved out of there, and that's when like the whole story started.
Gosh.
But so I was drinking every night, and he got like really, really nervous. And my sister and like my brother was fresh out of the army, so that like he was like ready for fucking
Which brother?
Charlie. So he was like
Charlie?
ready to fucking party.
Yeah.
And so he came with me and we started drinking every night. And like, I remember coming home one night at like fucking 2 a.m. just smamming. Like, never been this drunk in my life. And my sister's there, my dad's there, my brothers are there. And like, my sister's crying, my dad's crying. I'm like, fuck is wrong with you guys? And like, dude, literally had a fucking intervention. So like, we're afraid that you're going down the same road that dad did, and like alcoholism runs in our family and blah, blah, blah. And then like my dad was like, you're never going to get your boys back doing this kind of shit. So I'm like, fuck. So ended up straightening the fuck out. And just cruising Facebook one night, sober as fuck, gay. And my wife's profile popped up. And I'm like, oh shit. I haven't seen this girl in forever. And I was best friends with her brother, grew up with her brother, dated her in middle school. So I've known her my whole life pretty much.
Yeah.
So I hit her up and it was Valentine's Day. And I'm like, oh, what are you up to? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, nothing, just chilling at the house. I'm like, well, let me take you out. So I took her out to dinner, went over to Newburyport, wined and dined her, you know what I mean? Did the right thing. And then we hit a bar in Salem.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so ended up moving to Salem with her, got to my dad's place. Still well and commuting back and forth. Got up enough money to get my own apartment, moved back to New Hampshire, out to Newmarket, which is like the fucking boondocks.
God, that's so far away.
Yeah, it's out there. And it's like, there's nothing. There's like 2 gas stations.
I'm just thinking, I'm like, there's no reference to tell somebody listening where that is.
There's nothing.
Middle of nowhere.
Yeah. So I'm like, I need to be back in that place, though, to like get my head right and just do the right fucking thing.
Like back out in the sticks, like away from the shit.
Right. Yeah. So get out there and then pretty much immediately get my kids. So got both my boys to live with me full time. And then I think a year later had my daughter, which was fucking dope. Cause like, this is weird. I remember sitting in jail and I'm like, I want to have a daughter. I'm going to have a daughter when I get out. And ended up having a fucking daughter, thank God. But yeah, ever since then, it's just been on the fucking smooth. Life's been fucking good. Haven't been arrested since. Knock on wood. Really don't fuck with drugs. Smoke weed sometimes. Yeah. And drink with the homies. Like, I usually don't even drink here that much anymore.
Yeah, most of it. Honestly, I think year 1 of the show was when the J-Mo was a big thing.
Yeah. It's like, the cool thing, though, is like, I'm to a point now where, like, I don't have to, like, get fucked up. But, like, when we go somewhere, like, deadbeat or, like, on the road, I, like, make up for not getting fucked up all the other times.
See, I think that's one of the funny things between the two of us is that I'll have a few drinks every time we sit down.
Right.
And then a few drinks at deadbeat. And it's like there's never a super high, but there's like a constant, like, oh, a couple here, a couple there.
Yeah.
And we kind of do like the opposite with that.
Yeah,
whereas,
I get
like,
to
you'll
deadbeat,
sit here, have
like
none on
death.
all the recording nights. And I'm like, you don't even want a beer? And you're like, nah, I'm just going to stare at an iced coffee and hit this lip. Does it have anything to do with the lip? Because like you're already
because I can
something?
drink. No, I can drink with
That's true, yeah.
with my lip bag. I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think
it's because you think IPAs taste like grass, which is weird.
No, I like IPAs. I don't know what it is. I used to love coming home from work. Like when I worked outside.
Yeah.
I looked forward to coming home and drinking like 2 or 3 beers. Just to like unwind, you know what I mean?
Yeah, see, I'm still in that zone. That's why.
But like now I drive in an AC tow truck. And like I come home and I just like want to chill and drink a glass of milk. You know what I mean? Like my life's boring as fuck. Everybody thinks I'm cool as hell, but I literally just sit at home, watch Grey's Anatomy, and fucking drink warm milk.
Listen, you got to have that baba before
that's
night
it.
night.
I need that warm baba. Yeah. So all right. So move back to New Hampshire, get my sons, and at this point, I got the Sporty running. So the Sporty didn't run for the whole time I was in jail. Just sat in my grandmother's backyard, not even in the shed.
So hang on one sec. Let's back it up a quick minute here. You had the Sportster. We didn't talk at all about whether or not you rode before you went to prison.
Oh, yeah. So yes, I did.
So
my first bike ever was a 2000 GSXR 1000.
Oh yeah, you know what we did? You mentioned it somewhere in passing. I remember you mentioning the GSXR.
Yeah. So I got yeah, got that, rode that around for a little bit. And
So you were what age when you first got that bike? 16?
16. I think 16, just turning 17,
It had to be, because
maybe.
it was 17, 18 when you started the
Yeah,
other stuff.
I think 17, maybe, like just turning 17.
Gotcha. So you
rode
sport
that
bike
around
to
because I was
be
like, that's when I was like super into going like really fast, like building
right, you
the
had
fast
the Civics,
cars,
yeah, exactly.
and just wanted to like go fast as fuck all the time. So I was like, a sport bike's definitely what I need. And everybody in my family rides Harleys and like cruisers, so they were like, "You're a fucking clown. You're not riding with us."
I bet.
So I was like, "Okay, fuck you guys."
There's nothing like some people that love them some Harleys.
Yeah,
to
it
not
was
appreciate
bad.
a sport bike.
It was bad. I'm like, this thing's like the Ferrari of motorcycles.
Yeah, no one's trying to hear that.
Nobody cared.
The Harley guys are like, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Day.
I'm like, I can do 150 in first. But then I ended up doing, I think like maybe like a season and a half on that bike, and it was like, I liked riding too much to like ride that kind of motorcycle because it was just so uncomfortable. Like my back would hurt, my wrist would hurt because like all your weight is just like forward. It was really fun because you could go fast as fuck, you could ride wheelies and like whatever. The bike looked sick, girls loved it. But
Did they?
yeah. Yeah, like all those little fucking hood rat chicks.
Oh,
they
yeah, man,
love
yeah.
that shit. Like the chicks that wear hoodies and call you fucking my guy and shit. Yeah.
I need more descriptions
Yeah.
of these situations.
The little hood rat chicks, the fucking bigger the hoop, the bigger the hog. You know those girls.
They didn't like the cruisers? Like if somebody
No.
had like a fucking
No, it would have been weird if
Road
like
King, if you pulled up
17.
on a-
Imagine if I was 17 and pulled up on a Road King. People would be like, "What the fuck? Would you take that from your dad?
they wouldn't
Fucking weirdo."
so nobody had a cruiser in
Hell no.
that scene.
No, everybody that I knew and all the kids my age all had street bikes.
Nowadays I see
Oh,
I see
cruisers
hood
are
people in the,
definitely-
on the cruiser department
Cruisers are
now.
definitely more
with the
popular with
fucking-
younger dudes now.
Yeah, okay.
Like
That's
the Dynas and all that shit. But like when I was at that
Especially
age,
the
it was like
Dynas.
everybody had a street bike. And like everybody had a stretch street bike. Like the fucking
Oh, I remember
the
this.
swing arm was like
Yeah.
3 feet long, and you're like, what the fuck? I never got into that because you couldn't wheelie with it. So I was like, that's fucking gay.
Yeah, right?
But
Just makes it
yeah, so I did that
Straight.
for a little while. And I was like, this kind of sucks. Like, I did a cank ride once with my dad on that bike, and I was like, this fucking sucks.
yeah.
And my dad was like, well, look, if you sell that bike, take the money and get the Sportster running again, I'll give you the Sportster. At this time, he had a brand new Heritage Softail. And it was like a...
Great bike.
Yeah,
Great
brand new.
bike.
The thing was fucking gorgeous. Like, it was literally right out the fucking floor.
Whatever happened to that?
So I'll get into this. So
Okay.
he gives me the Sportster. I sold my bike for like $3,500, and I took $1,500 and put that aside for the Sportster,
Yeah.
and then took the rest of the money and bought a truck. And the reason I took the $1,500 aside was like
God, you could buy a truck with that
it needed
back then?
it needed carb work and needed like a battery. That's all stupid shit.
The Sportster, this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did as much as I could myself. Never worked on a motorcycle, so I was like super timid about even touching it. I'm like, And like at this point, I've like pulled pistons, done rod bearings.
This
Fucking,
was the craziest part when you
Yeah.
and I met. We'll get into that later,
like
but yeah.
fully built motors. Like I said, 1.6 motors with fucking 600 horsepower. Like I've had like built motors in my living room. You know what I mean? But like when it came to a bike, I was like, it was like a fucking foreign object, and I was so afraid to rip into it for some reason. I don't know why, but so I got the Sportster and brought it to a shop. My dad was like, I bring my bike here for everything. He knows the bike, blah blah blah. So fucking shout out to Drew Cycle, you cocksucker.
Oh boy, is this wire nuts guy?
I think so.
It's got to be wire nuts and 15 washers makes a foot peg.
Yeah. So this dude was like, oh, well, you need a whole new gasket kit and the carbs all gummed up and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, cool. And like the ignition was fucked up because they had like the key fob on the tank. Not a key fob, but you know what I mean? The ignition on the tank.
Yep.
The points were like fucked up on that. So every time I would ride it, it would die because like, I would lose contact with the points on the bottom of that thing.
You're shaking like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, get rid of that, do the carb, and whatever. So he hits me up like a week later. He's like, hey, the bike's done, blah, 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 whenever you're ready. So I go down there. I'm like, all right, what's the bill? $1,500. $1,500
Jesus
fucking dollars,
Christ.
dude. And he just literally he didn't even take that ignition off the tank. Left the ignition there and just put a key switch down on the side. Rebuilt the carburetor and put a new battery in it. So at that point, I'm like, I will never, ever, ever pay somebody again to work on my motorcycle. It'll never happen.
You know, that's funny because this is the identical story to what we told last week about me.
Yeah,
what
that guy fucking knew. Yeah,
the guy said the front end was fine.
I think a lot of people start this way.
I feel like this is the only way that people start because if you have such great experiences with a mechanic, why would you not continue to use the mechanic?
Right.
But then if you get fucked, you're like, I guess I'm the mechanic.
Yeah.
All right.
So from there, I get the bike, I get it back together, and I'm riding that thing around, and knew I wanted to build a chopper, but was like super fucking nervous because I've never done like any kind of huge like frame modifications or anything inside the motor or any of that bullshit. So pretty much took like the easy route. Started ripping stuff off the bike, shit that I didn't need. Took the mirrors off, switched out the bars, took the front fender off, changed out the gas tank for a smaller, because when I first got it, I had a Fat Bob dual tank on it. Pretty much my dad like made this thing look like a fucking bigger bike when it wasn't. It had like the long rear fender. So ripped the fenders off, got stock fender for the rear, put a smaller Sportster peanut tank on it. I think I put like 12-inch bars on it. Put a rigid seat on the frame. What the fuck else did I do? Put a sissy bar on the bike. Pretty much made it like essentially what you would call a bobber, I guess. Trying to get as close to a chopper as I could without having to fully commit. And at that point, that's when we come into the whole, I decided to ride with a fucking club. And so I started prospecting for that club. And like Grease mentioned last week, ended up meeting Grease halfway through my prospect time. He immediately talked shit about my Sportster. And was like, wow, I thought I had the biggest piece of shit bike in this club.
Like, what is this, a fucking Sport Glide? Nice Fat Bob tank, bud.
Yeah, so then like I was like, oh, this dude's a dick. And then I remember we did a run. I forget what the fuck it was for. Some run out in Milford. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking with you and Taz. I was still a prospect. You guys are full patch guys.
Yep.
And I remember you like, oh, I'm building the XS650 chopper. And I was like, say what? And then
what now?
Me and you started talking like a lot after that. And I was like, you got to come to my chapter.
Because you got to figure too, for the people listening, you're riding with people who have no interest in
right. And
I
did not know one single person with a chopper that wasn't like a OCC chopper.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because at that time, everybody was like with like the big dogs and fucking all those like big fat tire choppers, which was not what I was trying to build. And then, so I remember hearing you talk about it, and me and you started talking. Like, you showed me a bunch of pictures of your shit, and meeting you was like the last push I needed. And I was like, fuck it. I'm finally cutting this frame.
Well, I remember you telling me about how all the things you had done to cars.
Yeah.
And I remember asking you, like, cars are so much more complicated than bikes. Like,
right.
if you do all this stuff with cars, this is going to be a fucking cakewalk. It makes no sense that you wouldn't dive into the motor of a Sportster. It's going to be
I was
easy
so scared. Scared.
I remember the first time we rode with the XS together.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying, like, all right, I'm fucking building this thing.
Yeah.
Right away.
Yep.
Because once you see it, I feel like at that point...
Yeah, I was riding...
Like, there's no reason.
So,
and I didn't know my ass from my elbow. And I think I remember telling you that about, like, listen,
if I had
build
no
this,
mechanical experience.
There's no way you couldn't build something every
it was
bit.
that one time I rode next to you, and
to the sandwich
I was
place.
on a V-Star.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think I already cut my bike in half, though. Because I was on the V-Star. And I bought the V-Star I could do the Sportster.
You were on the V-Star at that time.
Yeah. So I started the process. I think I cut the frame, ordered, or whatever the fuck. I stripped it down.
Because we had been hanging out for a while at this point. But after the Milford ride, we started
Pretty much chilling all the time,
talking constantly, and then it was like, okay, I need to get up to this chapter.
Right.
Because we'll seek out the fucking choppers,
right,
no matter where they are.
And I remember, like, I think I was, like, halfway through my build, and, like, getting super frustrated, because, like, just trying to figure all the shit out by myself, and, like, and it was so hard, because I remember going into it, I was like, oh, Grease will be able to help me with, like, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
He's already almost done with his. But then, like, we ended up finding out that, like, the Sportster and the XS are a lot different.
Yeah. And also, I didn't have any fabrication skills back then.
And so I remember I got to a point where I was, like, so aggravated and, like, almost, like, in a lull in that build. And then you got yours on the road. And we rode.
Yes,
we went on the first ride. And I remember just, like, looking over at you. And, like, it sounds corny as fuck, but, like, I was like, he is having so much fun right now. Like, I could just tell that, like, the feeling you were having and the feeling I was having was totally different.
Yeah.
And, like, for anybody that never has ridden, like, a regular fucking just stock bike, which I'm sure is nobody that builds choppers, but, like, it is a totally different thing from riding choppers and stock bikes. Yep. Like, the fun part of it is just so different.
The utter amazement at the fact that it's going down the road is something you'll never feel on a stock bike, because a stock bike, you expect it to go down the road.
Right.
And then when you've touched every part of it, you're like, oh my God, it's moving.
Yeah. And I remember just, like, looking at you, because we're riding side by side. I remember just, like, looking over at you, and you were just, like, ear to ear smile. I'm like, this dude is crushing it.
I remember ripping it and just like,
and like just banging the gears. I was like, fuck.
Yeah, because it was already jockey shifted at that point.
I was like, this is what I need in my life. So it fully motivated me to get back going on the build. And, And then, like, fast forward, like, because everybody's heard most of the shit, but, like, fast forward to, like, when I finally finished my bike, it's the day of my bachelor party. And, like, you finally worked out the kinks on your bike.
Yep, because I had a million problems and still do.
And I remember just, like, the feeling of, like, we're up in Maine and, like, riding side by side on the bikes that we've been talking about for, like, 6 months at this point. No.
Yeah, because we had a show.
A year. It was a year of the show.
This is when people were writing reviews on iTunes about the show, saying it's a bunch of guys with non-running bikes talking about shit they don't understand.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was 1 year. It was almost 1 year today, because my bachelor party was in July. Yeah. And Deadbeat, the first year, was in July.
That's right, yeah.
So it was almost 1 year to the day of the podcast. We both got both of our choppers running, and we're riding in Maine down the coast for my bachelor party. And I remember just, like, looking at you and you looking at me, and I was like, this is literally the best thing that could ever happen.
Dude, that was an unforgettable experience.
It was
just ripping all around a place we had never been, getting lost. Having a fucking blast.
Amazing.
And just looking at where we came from, which is just basically being surrounded by a sea of dad bikes.
Right.
To then peg to peg, tropical chops, shit that we spent forever and poured our heart and soul into.
So much into. Like, the amount of work that went into both of these bikes, and, like, the stress, and that's why, like, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. And, like, I get it. Like, the Step Chop is not, like, the dopest chopper. It's not. But that is my favorite bike that I'll probably ever have.
Yeah.
Because, like, with that bike, like, me and you became super tight, like, legit fucking brothers.
It literally created this brotherhood, which then went on to create the show.
Right. Like, it started the show. It started all these people that we know, and, like, all these different countries, are all because of an 87 Sportster and a fucking XS650.
Yeah.
You know
Which is
why
I'll never sell that bike, as much as I talk shit about that bike. I have to keep that bike with me forever now.
Right.
And not as a burden, but because of what it represents. I think of that scene in I think it's Spectre, where they're talking the 007 movie, where they're talking about how you got to kill two people to get your 00, and he's like, the first one is so difficult, and it's him, like, struggling to kill that guy in the bathroom, and I'm like, this is building your first bike, and then he's like, and the second one's much easier, and then he just shoots the guy, and I'm like, God damn it, this is so true.
So like I said, at this point, we're both in the club. It ends up getting to a point where people are now starting to notice that, like, me and Grease are kind of, like, doing our own thing, interested in our own shit, like, building bikes.
not interested in their shit. I think is what
and
becomes
it really all started to come to light at this point. Where like once Grease got into the same chapter I was in, and like you had two like-minded people that like didn't want to go party like at a motel. Like we wanted to go on riding trips, and we would just figure it out as we went, and like camped.
Yeah, more spur of the moment, adventurous type thing.
And like so, like that wasn't like a thing people were into, and then like. Some other shit ended up happening where, like, the bikes that we were building weren't going to be allowed to be ridden and blah, blah, blah.
That was a huge... Yeah, when the fucking... The rules of engagement, so to speak, were kind of stacked against being able to even use these things with the club once we did finish them. And that's when it was like, oh, well, then fuck that.
Yeah, and, like, it just came to a point, like, me and him were talking, we're like... I think we talked about it for a couple weeks.
Yeah,
and
it was
like
definitely...
came to a point where, like, you were like, fuck this.
I was waiting on confirmation from one of the higher-ups that this was going to be okay to ride with everybody.
Right.
And they were kind of saying, like, well, it doesn't matter. You know, we got ways. You could skirt around it because you still have the other bike. So that'll meet the obligations. And I was like, no, I'm not tiptoeing around whether I can or can't. I'm not trying to skirt the rules. Either you like this bike and you're cool with me having it, or it's not going to work.
Right.
That's kind of what brought it to a head. It was like not trying to dance around it.
Yeah. And so I remember you called me and was like, I'm turning everything in. And I was the SA at the time.
Yeah. So
like,
you'd have been the person to receive it.
I would have been the guy to come get all your shit. And I remember I was like, fuck this. I'm done too. Fucking, I'm done.
Yeah.
And
I remember not wanting my leaving to be the thing that would influence anybody else.
Right.
But I do remember being like, that's my motherfucking brother right there. He's like, when I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And you're like, me fucking neither. Let's fucking out of here.
Fuck this. And then like, me and Loctite's fucking fashion, I go out with a fucking bang, like...
So yeah, because you got to tell them too, because we left... That part of the story is only relevant in the fact that I had left...
Before
officially.
Yeah.
And then people started getting mouthy as fuck.
Yeah, people were getting crazy, and... I don't want to, like, get into too much, like, the club politics shit, but, like, we'll just say it was national officers, and your boy lit them the fuck up, where everybody could see it. And let them know what the fuck was really good when you talk shit about my homie. And then,
especially after I leave, you know, you didn't say it to my face. You say it when I'm gone.
Right. And so yeah, after I made that fucking announcement
Fireworks.
that I made, ended up turning all my shit in as well. And was like, fuck this, man. Like, just the road that we were on was not. And it's like, look, it's nothing against that club. My dad still rides with that club.
Yeah.
And I still talk to some of the people in that club. It just wasn't where we were trying to be.
That's right.
Like, the shit we were trying to do was more, like, not as organized and, like, having fun and not being made to feel like you're being made to hang out with these people.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's a weird thing. You know what I mean? It's like...
Yep.
I don't know. It just wasn't for, like, what we were trying to fucking do. So
it shouldn't feel like a force, you know? It should feel like you wanted to do whatever that was, or you wanted to go on that trip, not like you had to. And I do think that was a big part of it.
Yeah. It was just the whole circumstances. It just didn't fucking work. So I remember after that, I remember thinking, like... And this kind of goes back to like what we were just saying about like people being forced to be together. You know what I mean? Because like you wear the same patch, like you got to go to these events and blah blah blah. So I remember thinking like, man, I hope like I don't leave this club and me and Grease never talk again.
This was a big one. Yeah, I thought about this too.
I was like, is this like were me and him tight because we shared the same patch, or were we tight because like we were fucking tight? And, like, I remember this, like, running through my head, like, a lot. And I was like, I don't, like, fuck. You know what I mean?
Know. Yeah, you don't know for sure until you
Because like,
take
you
that
just see
leap.
so, and like I'm not talking shit about club life, but you see so much fake shit and fake people.
Yeah.
So
And
like,
we've said some good things about club life too.
Right.
In the last episode, we talked about some of the things that we were happy to have taken away from our experience with the club. So it's not like we have
and
no
like,
good things to say.
Yeah,
about
I'll say
this.
I had a blast while I was there. I did so much partying. I went to so many different states I never would have ridden to, and met like some fucking phenomenal people, and honestly gained more of a passion for motorcycles from being in the club.
Right.
But also seen like the dark side of the clubbing world. And I remember, like I said, getting out, I was like, man, I hope like me and Grease still fucking stay in contact. And it was like we never even like skipped a beat.
No. And we actually would joke about this as we would go on to start the show, and we would see each other more often than we ever saw each other when we shared a patch.
Right.
And that's how we knew that this was more legitimate than anything else.
Yeah.
And it's because we didn't have to. There was no reason why we had to hang out. We were just hanging out, building bikes, doing our thing. And that's what people are looking for, you know? And some people get that from club life. They do. And
my dad loves it.
And
I'm glad that he loves it. Because he's like a middle-aged
just
dude.
what they're looking for. Yeah.
And like it gets him out of the house, and like and my dad travels everywhere now. My dad never ever flew on a plane for 50 years. My dad has now flown like 5 times this year. Like through the pandemic.
Damn.
And like does not fuck around. Like he'll jump on a plane and fly down to Florida to go see one of his club brothers for the weekend. And like flies to Georgia and fucking he's been everywhere.
And that's the kind of thing that is big, because not everybody's got podcast listeners, you know, that they've got across the country where it's like, oh, maybe I'll stop and see this guy, stop and see this guy. So for a lot of people, club life really is a good thing.
Right.
I want to make sure that we you know,
there's definitely no hate on
portray
clubbing.
it fairly. The things that drove us away weren't the same things that are relevant to maybe anybody else.
Right.
Maybe you have no interest in choppers and you like staying at motels, and maybe you are older than us. And
it's funny, my dad will even admit it, because he'll always ask me like, it's just weird that you got out, because like, you know, like everything I do, I'm 100% in. I don't like pussyfoot around shit. Mm-hmm. He's like, you were so into it. He's like, it's just weird that you left. And like we just had this conversation again, and I've been out for how long? We've been out now, 2-3 years almost. Yeah. And we just had this conversation like 2 nights ago, and I'm like, I'm just not about like partying in a fucking parking lot. Like, it's not my thing. I don't like it. I don't like going to stay in a hotel. I want to get on my bike, ride, camp somewhere, get drunk as fuck, and like build cool shit. Yep. And he's like, well, I'm not gonna lie, I like staying in a hotel. He's like, I just like the ground, like my back. I'm just too old for that. And I'm like, I get it. And I'm like, fine. I'm happy that you're happy. Exactly. You know what I mean? And it's just like, it just wasn't for us at that time. Like, who knows? When we're 50, maybe we're going to want to party in parking lots of fucking hotels. Yeah, I got a guy at my work right now who's in I think it's an RC, not an MC, but he's always talking about all the same shit that we used to do. And he's in his either late 50s or early 60s. And he's loving it, because that's exactly where he's at in his life. Right. And I say to those people, fucking crush it. And like, I won't lie, like there's sometimes where I'm like, I'll miss it sometimes. Because like the adrenaline rush of like when shit would go down. Yep. And like the traveling and like all that shit was fun as fuck. The traveling was great, and the excitement was there too. And I know that people are like, oh, fucking, this is like overly dramatic and shit like that. But when shit did go down and your brothers needed you and you were fucking rolling up to some place because somebody said, I fucking need you here. Right. It's fucking exhilarating, and fuck anybody that doesn't understand that, like, that you would fucking like that shit too if you fucking did it. Believe me. Like the adrenaline, like when you get a call and somebody's like, I'm out to eat, I fucking have my cut on me, and there's 17 other fucking club dudes here. Yeah, a bunch of people just walked in and they're standing waiting at the door, and it's like here we fucking go. Like the excitement that comes out of that is like ridiculous. Yeah. And like it sucks to be in that position, but at the same time it's like a fucking blast.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. So
And
like
it's
that
so
shit
easy
I miss,
to make fun of it from the outside and be
Right.
like, oh, well, that's so fucking high school and this and that, whatever. And it's like, believe me, if you were there and your heart got to pumping,
Right.
you'd be
fun.
fucking jonesing for the next one.
And like,
Promise
especially
you.
like the point I was at was like, I've been like low key for a little while at this point, like been out of jail for a couple years.
Yep.
And like to have all that excitement like rush in, it was like I got fucking hooked. But then it got to a point where it was just like the same shit over and over and over, and I was like,
Yeah, it wasn't that shit it's not that shit that drives you away. That shit kind of excites you.
right.
But it's the boring everyday shit that drives you away.
Right.
Or in our case too,
Or just like not being allowed to do whatever the fuck you want to do.
differing interests.
Right.
Yeah, that's the part that
But I mean, so my point to this whole part of the story was like, with the doubts that I had, not the doubts, but like the worry if like me and Grease would stay as tight as we were in the club was like a non-issue, like immediately.
Yeah.
And then this podcast was born, and like literally fucking exploded way faster than I ever thought it would.
And we've seen each other every week for 2 years now.
Every single
Isn't that
week.
wild?
Every week. Yeah, it's just crazy. And like, yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
It's crazy to think it's crazy to think it's only been 2 years. Sometimes I think back to when we left the club and started the show, and I'm like, that feels like 10 years ago.
Forever ago.
It really does. All the people that we've talked to in the meantime, all that
It's
shit.
fucking crazy. So, at this point now, we're both out of club. We both end up getting our bikes done. The podcast is like blown the fuck up. Mm-hmm. We're starting to meet people from all over the fucking place. We end up having... How did we meet Amy?
That's a great question. You know, this is the tough part. When you think back, it's like, how did you get in touch with them the first time? You just
so
feel
crazy.
like you've always known them.
Like Bob, I met Bob before the podcast. And because I bought parts off him, I still don't know how the fuck I got his number or where the fuck I got like any information on Chopper Bob. But I met Chopper Bob and like fell in love with that dude. He's like still to this day my favorite guy to talk to. Because he's just like, I remember the first night I met him, talked to him for 4 hours in his garage. And I was like, this dude is somebody that I want to be around. He has so many stories from like the 70s and 80s and like riding choppers and like, it's just, I was like, this guy's fucking amazing. And this is before I even knew he had a son, which is Badfish Customs.
Yeah.
And so I was friends with Chopper Bob before that. And, yeah, and then I don't know, I ended up meeting Brandon. And then we met Amy somehow.
Yeah, we met Chicken Rick.
We met Chicken Rick.
We met the Dirty Builds guys somehow. That's why I can't.
I don't know how that
place
happened
how
either.
we met the Dirty Builds guys. We must.
And
Like
then
you
we
said,
met Fat Man through Amy, because Amy like met him at a show or something. And then me and Fat Man like hit it off immediately because we're both like Boston kids
Yeah.
with like shitty attitudes, and like we both were like grew up wrenching.
Yeah.
And I remember the first night I met him, we did the podcast, and we went outside, and I was like, "You trying to smoke a joint?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to smoke a fucking joint." And I was like, "This dude's the homie, 100%.
Yeah.
He's the homie." And so I ended up working up at his shop 2 days a week. Never worked in a motorcycle shop before. Never really worked on other people's bikes at this point, really.
Yeah.
I was just doing my own shit. Learning how to do my own shit. And working with him, like... So I learned a lot of, like, motor shit through Fat Man, because that's, like, his specialty. And then kind of, like, grew a love for working on other people's bikes, because it's good fucking money.
Very good money.
And so he kind of got me into like that whole aspect of like being able to turn wrenches and make money at doing shit that like you don't mind doing. So I was like, this kid's on to something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And which what got me to like start taking work in my own shop. And So I ended up getting a shop because I was so sick of moving my fucking bike around to like so many different places. So I ended up getting a fucking shop, and I remember being like, listen, I don't want to pay for this out of pocket. I'm going to take in side work, like easy shit, like oil changes and rocker box covers and like handlebar jobs, just to pay for my rent. And then I ended up going to work for Fat Man, whatever. Me and him got super tight, and he decided that he was like, fuck it, I'm done with Boston, and wanted to come down to New Hampshire. So, moved him into my shop, and we started fucking killing it. Like, we were doing really fucking well. And then it got to a point where, like, I started, and like, it was kind of like a fucked up time when we merged this, because it was like, we're working up to winter, which is like a slow time for bikes.
Right.
But we were killing it off the rip. All his dudes from Boston, like his customers from Boston, would come down still. And like, I was spreading the word in my local area. And then
this is like October, November, right?
Yeah.
I think it was in that
of
time.
this past year.
Yep.
And then I got accepted into the Greasy Dozen. And so pretty much at that point, like, me doing shop work was very fucking hard. Because now I'm full blown on this build. And so I'm still trying to do shit in between. But then it got to a point where, like, I'm spending so much time in the shop that, like, I ended up taking time off of my work and only working 3 days a week doing towing, and then 2 days a week at the shop, so I could keep up with the fucking shit that we had coming in and my build.
Right.
And then plus working nights on top of the days I was doing towing. So it was like, it just started getting like so much fucking shit. Like, I was never seeing my kids, never seeing my wife, and that's not good for anybody.
No.
And I always said I don't want to be, and like, I love my dad to death for giving me the life that I had. It definitely wasn't the best life, but he taught me a lot of important shit. But I always said I will never not be there that much for my kids, like my dad was not able to do.
Sure.
So after that, I started like stepping back a little bit from doing side work, and like really try to finish up my build. And for a little while, me and Fatman, like, we're just now getting back into taking work in again. He started a Shovelhead project, and we just got to a point where, like, we're not taking any more fucking work. Like, it got to a point where, like, it was not fun anymore. We're getting buried in work and, like, not having time to do anything else.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know. That kind of brings us close to current day.
Yeah, we're kind of leading up to it. So when you first got picked for the Greasy Dozen, how did you decide on what bike you were going to be building for it in the first place? Because you didn't have the bike. Well, you did.
So I got the bike a week before the Greasy Dozen entries ended.
And talk about how you got the bike in the first place, too, because that's a good story.
All right, so in between all this, I had another bike called the Hood Rat. For you guys that are like OG listeners, you know about this bike.
Yeah.
Very fast Sportster. I got rid of that bike because I didn't build it and I just didn't love it. You know what I mean? So I sold that bike and did pretty well on it. Got a good amount of money, got an FXR, and got a Mac toolbox. Took that money that I got, and so also my grandfather on my mother's side, I've kind of been close to him my whole life. He's like a real like hot rod dude. He's been building hot rods my entire life. Like badass like 54 coupes and like badass cars.
Yeah.
And he was like, look, I don't know much about the motorcycle game, but I know hot rods. I know you can build shit. Because like we always used to have this thing when I was younger. I was building these Hondas and he was building like these big 454 fucking muscle cars and shit. And we used to have like this rivalry every year at this old abandoned airstrip. And they'll do this thing called Run What You Brung. And anybody can just bring whatever cars they want and you drag race down this thing. It's all like safety, fucking whatever.
Yeah.
So every year, it was a showdown between me and my grandfather. And like it got to a point where like people knew it was coming every year and like got excited about it. And I was bringing imports and he was bringing muscle cars. So after I got out of the car thing, like started doing motorcycle shit, I was talking to him one day, and I was like, hey, I found the 77 C10. I'm really thinking about getting this thing. Any chance you want to come down, just like look it over with me? And he's like, yeah, I'll come down. So he comes down, looks at the truck with me. He's like, and like he'll never tell me what's wrong with the vehicle. He'll be like, so what did you find? And like I'll go through what I found, and then he'll be like, well, you didn't see this? You know what I mean? He's like always like trying to keep me on my toes.
Sure.
So we go through that whole process, and he's like, it's a solid truck. You should buy it. It'll be a good project for you. So I got half the money from selling the bike for this truck, and I'm trying to figure out how to get the rest of it. And he hits me up, and he's like, do you want a sponsor for this truck? And I'm like, no, I don't. And he's like, just let me sponsor the truck for you. Because he's like helped some of my other cousins out, but like I've just never done that to him. And I'm not a guy that like, I don't like to like have handouts. I'm just like not that kind of dude. So I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'll figure it out. I'm like, I got a shop, so I'll do some shit in there and fucking make up the money. So 2 weeks later, it's my birthday. And he sent me a card every year for my birthday since I was a kid. I always get a card on the day of my birthday from my grandfather. And so I open up the card, and there's like a note in the front of it. And it's like a long, like handwritten note. My grandfather's like 70-something. So it's a handwritten note from him. And he's like, I know you had a lot of trouble, blah, 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 like in my younger years. He's like, but even though I wasn't into the imports, it like made me proud that you were still like doing wrenching and shit like how I grew up, and like that you've learned shit from me and blah, blah, blah. He goes, I know you don't want a sponsor for the truck. He's like, but I would really like to see what you can do with a hot rod. And I'm like, what the fuck's that mean? So then I open up the card, there's a check for $1,500.
Wow. Dude.
And I'm like, so I call him up, obviously, and I'm like, listen, Grandpa, I don't need this money. I'll figure it out. And he's like, I know you'll figure it out. He goes, don't use it to buy the truck if you don't want to. I don't care. But don't send it back to me. So I ended up taking it, used it to buy the truck, started doing all the work to the truck, getting it so it was running good. And I think it was Amy, actually. She was like talking to me, because I entered the Sportster in the Greasy Dozen a year before, didn't get picked.
Yep.
And she was like, you need to fucking enter the Greasy Dozen. It's so much fun. It's like a good like journey to be on. And like, she really just talked me into it. And I'm like, all right, let me see what I can figure out. And that same night, a dude hit me up that was just following me on Facebook. And was like, hey, do you have any interest in selling that C10? And I'm like, not really. And he's like, oh, I've been looking for a C10. I crashed my Mustang. I just want to build another project. And for anyone who hasn't seen this truck, it was 77 C10, like fire engine red, lowered to the ground, had a tonneau cover on the back. I put a brand new Flowmasters exhaust on it. The thing was cammed way the fuck out, sounded like a beast. Had shaved doors, shaved bumper. The thing was fucking, it was a nice truck.
Yeah.
Needed some work, but it was a nice fucking truck. So this dude hits me up and he's like, well, if you ever change your mind, I see that you're into motorcycles too. I have a motorcycle I'd be willing to trade you. So I'm like, well, what do you got? And he's like, I have a 1980 Shovelhead. And I'm like,
ooh, shit.
Really? And this was like, so I just talked to Amy, and we had talked about on, I think like a couple weeks prior to this, about what our dream, like our next motorcycle would be.
Yeah.
If we had to choose a motorcycle. And I'm like, how the fuck is this all like falling together? So I'm like, bring the bike down. If I like the bike, I'll make a trade with you. So I called Chopper Bob, because at this point I have never worked on anything older than my Evo.
Right.
And so I'm like, hey, look, I'm looking at a Shovelhead today. If you can come look at it and just let me know that it has everything that I need. So he comes down, Fat Man's there. And long story short, I ended up getting the fucking Shovelhead. Enter into the Greasy Dozen last minute. And I think I don't remember who it was. I think maybe Bear hit me up and was like, oh, I seen you enter. Like, what's your plans for it? And I was like, well, dude's been talking shit on my podcast. I'm thinking about doing a swing arm fucking chopper. And he's like, fucking sick. And I'm like, That can't be a bad sign.
Right? It's got to be a good one.
Yeah. So, end up getting picked for Greasy Dozen, and, end up going balls deep into that build. And, like, that was a build that we always talk about this. It's like our first build, you look back and you're like, man, I wish I did this different. Mm-hmm. And I have so much of that with the Stepchild. Like, so much. So this bike, I told myself, I'm going to give this bike everything I got. Like, anything that I can do to this bike to make this, like, over the fucking top, push myself. And, like, just it being a swing arm in itself was really pushing myself. Because that's, like, not what I like. You know what I mean? Like, I've legit made fun of people on this show.
Many times.
Yeah, so just really pushed myself on that. Ended up trading the FXR to Maddie for the fucking paint. Worked with a couple dudes that people have heard on the show, like Steel City Blacksmithing. He's like one of my favorite dudes. He's like the best come-up story that's ever happened on the show.
Yeah.
And like just seeing him going from buying a lot of Ironhead parts and like flipping that to where he is now, just absolutely crushing the game, is like ridiculous.
It's unbelievable.
And so I remember talking to him, and not because I couldn't build a sissy bar, because I could have built a sissy bar.
Sure.
But I knew the bike was going to get attention because obviously it's built for the Greasy Dozen, so there's going to be coverage on it. And talked to him, and I'm like, look, if you're down for it, I would like to have you make something for the bike. I want to like help, and not like saying like I can help anybody with anything. But like I wanted to, like, if I was able to be on that platform at that time, I wanted to be able to shed some light on shit that people can do at the same time. You know what I mean? And that's just because that's the kind of person I am. I get joy from seeing other people succeed. So I'm like, look, I want you to do something. And then like me and him went back and forth for a few weeks and worked out the idea for the sissy bar, what kind of twist we're going to do and all this shit and the brake stay. And he just absolutely fucking crushed it. And then, who else did I work with on this? Worked with you on all the TIG welding and shit.
Yep. Been on the tank and the exhaust.
Right. Worked with Dirty Builds on the CNC shit. And it's like, again, not because...
Somebody on the handlebars, right?
No. No, so I was trying to set it up with Wannabe Fabrication. The bars that I ended up getting from him didn't work for what I was trying to do. So I didn't end up getting to use those bars.
Still makes great bars, though. Shout out to Wannabe Fabrication.
Banger of bars. I love his bars. But, yeah, so it's like, I didn't bring these people in for, like, the fact that, like, I couldn't build a sissy bar or I couldn't weld my exhaust. 'Cause I could have easily, like, put down shitty MIG welds on my exhaust like I did with the Stepchild. But it's like, I'm trying to build a really nice bike. I know people that make really nice stuff. And it's like, if I can get them on the same platform that I'm getting, like, it doesn't make sense for me not to.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't fucking make sense. So, yeah, I brought in Steel City Blacksmithing, Dirty Builds, Deep Six Cycles for the shorty pegs, Ferro Fabrications for the welds, and Chopper Fisher for all the photography and videography.
And then old Maddie.
Oh, and Maddie for the fucking paint. And, like, Maddie doesn't need anything that I could ever offer. That kid is, like, a fucking beast. Like, it was a pleasure. Like,
He's definitely
it was, like, my honor to have that dude paint my bike.
Yeah. He did such an
and, like,
amazing
I wanted
job.
him to paint my bike so bad. And I remember talking to Maddie about this when I first got the bike. And Maddie's the homie. And he was going to give me a deal on everything. But, like, he still knew for the amount of, like, effort and time I was going to put into this bike that I was not going to be able to afford the paint to match it.
Yeah.
And Maddie, just being, like, the solid fucking dude he is, thought about it and came up with a plan, like, listen, just trade me the FXR and we'll fucking call it even. And which sucked to get rid of the FXR because like I wanted to build a bike that I could just get on and ride and like never have to worry about it.
That doesn't exist, so no worries, no loss there.
But it would have been nice to have a fucking Evo, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I was like, yeah, fuck it. Like Maddie wants another bike because he only had the Iron Head, and his paint's definitely worth it.
Oh, for sure.
Like I seen him when he painted Badfish's purple bike. I was like, that was like still to this day one of my favorite bikes. And I was like, yeah, no fucking brainer. And then after talking to Brandon about it, he was like, he's like, honestly, if I can give you any advice, let Matty do his thing. And that was probably the best advice I could ever get. Because I was like, I just called Matty. I'm like, do whatever you think. You know what I'm looking for. And you know what's going to look good. So he hit me up and was like, all right. He's like, just do me a favor. Go on Google. Find like the style that you like.
Yeah.
And send me those pictures. So I just
what did you send him?
So I just typed in 70s style choppers. I like the real bright, like you have no fucking choice but to look at me colors.
Yeah.
And so I sent him a bunch of shit like that. It was just like very heavy. And like I told him, I'm like, I want something heavy, heavy metallic. Like I want fucking glitter all over this goddamn thing. I'm like, I want bright colors and like just like that super like acid trip fucking paint. You know what I mean? And I was like, other than that, I don't give a fuck what you do. I don't care what color. I don't care what designs. I don't care what you do. And it was fucking awesome. Because like the whole time I had no idea. He was sending me black and white pictures. And like send me like a little like super close up picture where you couldn't see shit but just like the color. And I'm like, oh my God. And like literally, when you guys see the film, the video that Chopper Fisher did, you'll see the day that I seen my tank for the first time. Yeah, Chopper Fisher was there and put it in the video and all that shit. Yeah, so huge shout out to Maddie for absolutely crushing it on the paint. But yeah, so then fast forward to fucking present day, pretty much. Greasy Dozens didn't fucking happen.
I know, it was such a weird
Sucks.
Turn.
Zane's busting his balls to try to do the best he can with whatever he can do online. Still, I will say, even though I didn't get the final party part of it, I would recommend a Greasy Dozen to anybody. Because I promise you, you will never push yourself so goddamn hard. Hold on, so I want to say this. When you enter the Greasy Dozen, I know it's not born free, it's not this, that, whatever. You're not winning a fuckload of money. But take it as, like, this is your chance to show whoever watches the Greasy Dozen what you are fucking made of. Because, like, if you just go into, like, I'm just going to build a bike so I can get these free parts, you're really cheating yourself.
Yeah.
When I went into it, I was like, I'm going to build the best bike I've ever built in my fucking life, and I'm going to show people what I can fucking build. And it pushed me to the limits where, like, at sometimes I was like, fuck this bike. And, like, I hate fucking choppers, and I hate building. It made me fucking question if I could build bikes. But, in my opinion, turned out a pretty fucking rad bike. And I'm excited for people to see it. There is some things that I wish I did different, but I feel like no matter what you build or who you are, there's always going to be things you want different.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I'll say the Greasy Dozen 100% made me a better builder, made me push myself, made my tool game 10 times better than what it was. And yeah, that's it. Right now I'm to the point, so I'll say I haven't been in my shop in probably a month. A full month. I've not been in my shop to turn one wrench. And it's not because I don't want to be. It's like, I just got to like the point of, it got to a point where it was like a job. And like I wasn't having fun. I was getting pissed off. And like just not having time to do my own thing. It's just like, I don't know. I'm like a firm believer in like, if it's not fun, it doesn't even make sense to fucking do it. You know what I mean? And like, I didn't want choppers to become not fun for me anymore.
Right.
So I took that break, and I've pretty much just been like doing to shit that I used to do. I've been fishing a lot, getting all my hunting shit ready, just having fires with my kids in the backyard, fucking raising chickens. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's been good. And now I'm ready to get back to work. I'm ready to be back in the shop. I'm ready to be fucking turning wrenches.
After hunting season.
Yeah, so that's the thing is, both of my bikes are not running right this second. I mean, so I'll say this. I can have both of those bikes running in a night. I could ride both of those bikes this weekend if I wanted to. I don't know. Just like the whole thing with COVID and all this bullshit just like put me in like a place where I'm like, fuck it. Season's over.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I haven't been motivated to work on shit either. I have like this huge laundry list to do before Deadbeat because I've been sitting here like, where would I go anyway?
Yeah. Honestly, I have 100 miles on a chopper this year. That's it. I have over 500 miles on a bagger this year. Because my dad let me use his road glide for my fucking anniversary. And I did 500 miles that weekend. And I don't care if I ride a bike this year. I'm like, it's whatever.
Yeah.
I just want to like see my friends. I haven't seen my friends in a long fucking time. Super looking forward to Deadbeat.
Yes,
and then after that, it's like I'm full blown hunting mode. Last year I didn't hunt one time. For the first time since I was 8 years old.
Damn.
Think about that.
I know, and of all the years, it was the year I got my license.
Yeah.
And I was like...
The 1 year. I did not hunt one time.
Had so much going on last year.
I just got accepted into the Greasy Dozen.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that must have been
And I was like, I don't have fucking time. And this year I just don't want that to happen. Hunting is like my peaceful time. So when I get back to my zen and fucking relax.
Right.
So this year that's happening. I do want to get both my bikes done and like ready for it. So when next season comes, they're done.
Yeah, so they can be ridden.
Right. I mean, I'm definitely obviously going to ride this season. But fall's my favorite time to ride. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just not like... I don't know. I feel like there's like... How do I say this without sounding like a douchebag? I don't know. I feel like there's like different kinds of people, like, they feel like they need to be like constantly working on a bike or riding a bike to like, for people to think that they're chopper people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm never questioning, like, I hope someone thinks I'm a chopper person. Like, I don't even like say I'm a chopper person. You know what I mean? It's just like, that's what I do.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. I don't feel obligated to be like cranking out miles on my fucking chopper and like taking pictures and putting them on Instagram. I don't know. I'm just like content with what I'm doing right now. I'm happy and fucking doing my own thing. So this year I'm focusing on hunting. Me and Grease are taking a trip up to New York, well, down to New York.
Yeah.
Upstate New York to hunt with fucking Amy and Rob.
I'm looking forward to that more than anything else this season, honestly. That's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I'm just trying to not let it, like... I just don't want it to get to a point where I hate it. So, I'm trying to like get back into like my normal groove of doing shit and work on bikes when I feel like working on bikes. That's it.
Yeah. I think that's what you want to keep that balance, you know?
Right. So and not for like the lack of having shit to do, because like I still have 73 XS650. That's going to be like my over the top build, which is like most people wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because like why would you go over the top and like do like shit you've never done before? Like people are like, why would we do it on a fucking shovel head? Blah blah blah. I don't know. I have no idea why. But the XS is going to be the bike that I just want to be like, make it absolutely retarded.
Yeah.
And I also have the CB 350 and I want to make a dirt bike. Talking to Jerry about getting a CB 750 fucking chopper frame. Like, I have tons of shit that I could do. But it's just like, I don't know. I don't feel obligated to have it like an everyday part of my life and like post it on Instagram every day so people think that I'm a chopper guy.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any confusion on it. I feel like people get it. I feel like more often than not, the chopper guys are the ones that you don't see riding all the time. It's the guys with the stock bikes that never break down.
Right.
The guys at my work that are like, I thought you were into bikes. Like, why aren't you ever like coming in on your bike? And I'm like, because I never fucking ride bikes anymore. I just tear them apart.
Yeah.
And work on them.
Like, Fat Man always, he'll fucks with me all the time. He'll come over, because the shop's at my house, for people that don't know. And he'll, like, roll over, like, come to work on his shovel or something. He's like, you come to the garage? And I'm like, nah, I'm just going to mow the lawn. And he's like, what the fuck? He's like, that's the most dad shit I've ever heard in my life.
Love some dad shit.
After I put in a 10-hour day at work, I'm just trying to ride on my fucking lawnmower and drink PBRs.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like, that's it. I don't know. I'm just in a good spot right now. I'm loving life and fucking chilling.
Yeah. That's a good thing, man.
Yeah.
So do you have a definite, like, what's up next? If you do want to do something else? Like, of those bikes you described, do you know which one you'd be most interested in jumping into?
I don't know, because, like, I said this last year when I was like, I'm going to take next year off and, like, not build, and then I built a fucking shovel. So it's like, ideally, for me, I would like to not build a bike this winter.
Yeah.
As of right now, my plan is to pull the motor out of my shovel head this winter and pretty much just do a top end on that and, like, freshen everything up. And make it a nice, like, good running. I mean, it was a good running motor when I tore the bike apart. Like, I want to be able to put the miles down on that bike next year. Because, like, we've been talking, next year I want to be the year. It's like when we're hitting, like, Georgia and South Carolina.
Yes.
And I want to be able to have, I mean, it's not going to compare to your fucking Softail, obviously. But I want to be able to have a bike where, like, me and you can be like, hey, we're going to PA this weekend to hit fucking Glory Days.
Yes.
And ride the fucking Glory Days. You know what I mean?
Talking about, yep.
So that's my plan with the shovel, is to try my best to get that thing as, like, perfect as you can get a shovel. And that's it. I mean, who knows? Like, the XS is like fucking an itch that needs to be scratched at some point.
Is it?
Yeah, it's just like the frame sitting up on a shelf and, like, the motor sitting on my bench. And it's like every time I walk in the shop, I just see it and I'm like, fuck. And, like, I have so many ideas for that bike that, like, will really push anything I've done over the top. So, like, I want to get into it because I want to try those new things.
Sure.
And so that's going to be the first bike that I fully mold. I'm going up with the down tubes, which will be the first time I've done that. I want to curl the backbone, so that'll be the first time I've done that. I want to run a full, rigid, like 20 over front end. So it'll be a full rigid bike. I've never done that. Never built a front end. So it's like, that bike is like really going to fucking push me. So I want to get into it, but at the same time, like, I just want to take the time and enjoy the two bikes that I've built already.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's hard, but as of right now, my plan is to just redo the shovel head motor. Then we can put miles down next year.
It's a good idea. You know, get those things fixed. Get that exhaust situation remedied. Get the motor, if you decide to go overboard, fresh
I think
piston.
I'm going to leave it fresh, like just a fresh stock rebuild. Just an 80-inch
Not overboard
motor.
to get the extra power, but just like if it's scarred up.
Yeah, if it needs it.
You might have to go, you know.
I mean, I think if it came to that, I'd do like the same thing Fat Man did, just buy new cylinders and then the new pistons. But just because I want to keep it as stock as possible. Not saying that's going to make it any more reliable, but in my past, I've realized the more power you put down, the more shit you break. And I'm just not about that anymore. Like, I don't care about going fast.
Yeah.
I got 3 kids that, like, I don't want to die on.
Right.
So I'm just happy with, like, cruising like 40 on a back road, just being slow, the slowest one in the pack. I'm cool with that now.
I hear you, man.
But yeah, so that's pretty much it. And I want to give the stepchild a makeover. Just make that a super. Now that I have another bike, I just want to make that a super, super skinny bike. So we'll see.
I can't wait to see what you do with it. Makeovers, and you're going to change the paint?
So I'm thinking about changing the paint, but keeping the same color, but it's not the same design because I have like all the gold shit that I did on the tank and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I've gotten a little bit better at painting, and now I pinstripe. So I definitely want to add that into the mix.
For sure.
So we'll see what happens. I'm definitely excited about that one, though. I want to make that bike so goddamn skinny. It's just the perfect bike for it.
I mean, it's already pretty skinny.
It is, but it's not as skinny as I want it to be.
What do you want to narrow the front end out a little?
Ideally, I'd like to do like Mullins narrow trees. Right now, I just have like a stock width Sportster peanut tank. So I'd really like to cut that down like a lot and make that super narrow. The seat's fine. I'm fine with the seat. The fender's just like, it's too much. It has too much sidewall for what I like. Which I blame on Cooper Smith & Co. Because it's tough.
You just have such a great profile to those ones.
Yeah. So I want to change the rear fender, and that's about it, really. Just narrow it way the fuck out.
I feel like that's all pretty doable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's shit that's like won't take a lot of time or money, so I'm about that.
Especially if you get the other one going in the meantime.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, the shovel head's not far off. That's like, and I've said it so many times on the show, it's like literally one night. Like, I line the train, you put the brake line on, and put my chain on.
Yeah.
And then that bike's ready to go.
Be done.
But it's like, eh.
I hear you, man. It's such a weird thing how it's, you'd think you'd be itching to get out there, but
I really want to ride that bike. But like, with the problem I have with the exhaust, it's like, I don't know. I feel like if the exhaust studs weren't fucked up, I'd be more amped about it. But it's like, how far am I going to go on that thing before those break? And then I either fuck my paint up or wreck my bike because I run over a fucking exhaust pipe.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, I don't care if that thing sits on the lift until I rebuild the motor, honestly. Like, I built the bike. The bike's essentially done. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, you just got to put those finishing touches on. And
I'm cool with it.
I feel like it's better that than get like stranded with it, trying to rush.
Yeah.
Trying to force it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a bike that I don't want to rush. I like it, and I don't want to fuck it up.
So that kind of brings us up to present moment, post-build, and where we're at right now, which I feel like is a good time to dive into some of these questions from the listeners. How you feel about it?
Sure, it'll be a shit show, so let's get it going.
It's guaranteed. Oh, man. Yeah, so we'll try to get to the ones that are most relevant first, and then we'll go through some of the funny ones at the end.
Cool.
Sound good? All right. Uncle Charlie's wants to know. He says, I actually want to hear some crazy tow truck stories. I know there's got to be at least one that stands out. And Fat Man Motor says, tell them about the time we did cowboy shit.
All right, so Fat Man decided he wanted to jump into the tow life. So I brought him over to my company, and he did like all the light service shit for a while, like lockouts, jump starts, all that bullshit. Mm-hmm. And then decided he wanted to start doing tow truck shit. So I was like, fuck it, I'll train you. And so I think this was, I don't remember if this was during a snowstorm or right after a snowstorm, whatever it was. So one dude that was working there was talking shit about how he could like do more calls than me or some shit, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, dude, let's fucking run this. So that happened to be the Fat Man's first day of training.
Oh, Jesus.
So we call it cowboy shit. It's like when you're just going balls to the walls. So we're fucking cruising. Like I'm saying like 55, 60 down back roads. And just the bed on my truck is 23 feet long. That's not included the full extended cab, international. The thing's fucking monstrous. So we're doing 50, 60 miles an hour down these back roads, cranking out these calls. I want to say by like noontime we'd done like 8 calls already, which is a fuck ton. So we get to this one, and I remember that. So we pulled up past the driveway, and it's kind of like inclined. Driveway hadn't been plowed out yet. So I look at him, I'm like, man, we really should not fucking back up this driveway. And I'm like, fuck. And he's like, fuck it, don't. And I'm like, we're doing some cowboy shit. So I fucking drop it in reverse, fly up the driveway backwards, hop out of the truck, and the car's at the top of the driveway, and we're kind of like on the incline of the driveway. And so Fat Man's on the passenger side of the bed. I'm on the driver's side of the bed, working my controls. As I start bringing my bed back, I don't really know what happened. I think it's because like when I started tilting my bed, it just like gave the truck just enough push that my truck started sliding down the driveway.
Oh, fuck.
And so I'm yelling at him, and I'm like, get in the fucking truck. Like trying to get him to counter steer away because it was coming, like pulling to the left, and there was a big embankment down the left-hand side.
Yeah.
So the truck would have went down there and probably rolled. So I'm yelling at him, get in the truck. So he's trying to like run faster than the truck, cut in front of it, and then get into the driver's seat. And as he's doing that, I'm like doing shit with my bed, trying to get to stop, like jamming my fucking bed into the ground, trying to make it stop. Putting my stinger down, trying to make that stop, still won't fucking stop. And so he finally gets in, he's trying to steer it, but at this point, it's going to like at such a pace that like the steering doesn't matter at this point. It's just sliding.
Right.
So it's sliding heavy to the left, and I'm still trying to work my controls, and I don't notice that we're sliding, and there's a big oak tree to my back.
Uh-oh.
So as it's sliding, I'm like, fuck. So the last thing I could think of was to try to get my bed back up and put the weight on the front of the truck. So I finally get the bed up. The truck like comes to a stop, and I turn around, and I'm like, I don't know, probably a foot, probably 6 inches of the front, 6 inches of the rear of being crushed in between my bed and oak tree. So I almost got fucking,
shit,
so I almost got
dude.
mangled by my truck. And Fat Man was there to witness it. So,
Fuck.
yeah. And I told him, I'm like, hey, drive this thing back down the driveway. And he's like, fucking shit, me.
Like, fuck no.
He ended up driving, his first time ever driving that truck. Had to drive it down this icy-ass driveway, but...
Jesus, dude.
Yeah, we got to figure it out.
That's fucking nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what doing cowboy shit means.
Cowboy shit will get you
Just
fucking crushed.
dangerous ass shit.
Jesus, man. Are you always taking the car away when you're going on these calls?
Yeah. Yep.
It's never like you're fixing it on the spot or doing anything like that, right?
I'm bringing it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yep. Or doing like recoveries. I've done live videos on that.
You got to tell the story. This isn't one of the listener questions, but you got to tell the story of the one in the woods that was like...
The one was on its roof?
Yeah.
Oh, the Tahoe?
The Tahoe... There was actually...
The one that was upside down in a river?
There was one that you said started, which was amazing, even though it sat in the woods for like years and years. And you guys sprayed starter fluid in it, and it came to life. That you guys found like with a bush growing out of it.
Yeah, the Mustang.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'll tell the first. So the first one was a Tahoe. This was this past winter. This guy's coming down. Had been drinking in a fucking snowstorm. And it's like a tight, like, hairpin turn. And this dude never fucking had a chance. He just went straight. Went in between this massive fucking rock and a tree. Launched down a 30-foot fucking cliff. And landed upside down in a river. So that took 3 trucks and 5 hours to get out.
What are you even doing? Like, how are you getting down the embankment? Or you're, like, just coming in from the other side?
So I had to... So this is like right as a snowstorm is ending. So the roads are fucking covered. So when you're trying to pull something like that, your truck's just going to slide with it. And so what I had to do is I took my wrecker, drove that up the road, hooked a chain around a tree and into the front of my wrecker. And then used that as my main cable to flip the Tahoe back over. So I had to grab my cable, slide down this ravine, get in the river, hook up this fucking this Tahoe from the back side of it to be able to flip it back over. And then I repositioned my big truck, tie that to a tree on the opposite end. So I'm using that as an anchor so it can't flip when I'm bringing it up the ravine with my wrecker.
Yeah.
And it was a fucking shit show. I had 3 guys here that were new tow truck drivers. And it was like, yeah, it was terrible. So I'm standing in a river for essentially 5 hours. It was fucking
God. You bring
absolutely
like
terrible.
waders for that, or you just?
No, I have my muck boots on because I wear those in the winter because I always have to climb like in snow bankings
Yeah.
and all that shit. So I'm wearing like a Carhartt suit and all that shit. But still, cold as fuck. And like my job after a recovery is I got to do a cleanup. So like now I got my sleeves pulled up and I'm pulling parts and like whatever else came out of this Tahoe out of the river and having to bring them back up top. So yeah, that was a fucking shit show. I went live for most of that.
I bet.
And then the other one was a 68 Camaro. And so this guy got this car to do like a project with his son. And his son turned out to be like a little cunt that had no interest whatsoever. So his dad like laid down a tarp up in like the back 40 of their like their yard.
Yeah.
Laid down a tarp. Well, laid down plywood, laid down a tarp on top of that, and then pulled the Camaro up on top of it, and then put a tarp over it. So then the dad died. Kid never had any interest, just left the car up there. And I think it sat for, I think he said 10 years or something like that. And to the point where like the plywood was rotted, the tarp was like almost disintegrated, and this thing just had like at least an inch of pine pitch on top of it.
Wow.
And he was like, yeah, I don't know. He sold it to the guy that was working there for $100 or something fucking crazy like that.
Jesus.
So he was like, yeah, it was running, but like we were going to do a full resto on it, and like I just never like had any interest in it. So the guy's like, do you guys have ether by any chance? And I'm like, yeah, I got ether. So we fucking popped the hood, put my jump pack on it, and sprayed it with fucking ether. And like wicked slow crank, like obviously because the fucking rings and the pistons have been sitting there so fucking long. And the guy just like kept holding it. It was like, whoa, whoa. And like it was slow, like the revolution would get a little bit faster each time. And then it started like firing like a normal fucking car. Like, whoa, 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 whoa. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to spray more ether. So I fucking just doused it with ether. Hit it again. It was like, fired right up.
Wow,
sounded like shit because the
dude.
exhaust was rotted.
Yeah.
But fired right up, ran like fucking shit. Because obviously everything in there's fucking old. The oil was probably like slime.
Yeah.
But fired right up, ran until the ether burned off and shut off.
That's nuts,
Yeah.
dude.
So I paid $100 fucking dollars. And we went and picked it up for him. A 78 fucking Camaro.
Jesus.
Or a 68, sorry. Not a 78. 68 Camaro.
That's so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it
Deal
wasn't
of a
like
lifetime.
pristine. Like, it needed floorboards and
I
rips
know,
off
but
and all that
still.
shit. But it was still amazing to see that thing start.
Seriously. Let's see here. We're going to jump into another one from Flanda_Graham. Got a new face around here. Welcome to the show. He says, what's your favorite bike part that you've made yourself?
I don't know, because it like always changes. Like whenever I do like the first time for something, like when I first made, when I made the mounts for my fender for the shovel head, I was like super impressed with the way those turned out, because I welded 2 pieces of flat stock as like a T, and then ovaled off the ends, drilled out the holes, and then polished it to like chrome finish. I was like, dude, this thing looks fucking insane.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it sounds stupid because it's a fucking fender mount, but like the time that I put into that fender mount to just make it look so fucking perfect was like ridiculous. And then, I mean, that's not my favorite because, like I said, it was a fucking fender mount, but the first time I shaved my lowers, super fucking impressive, because like I started getting good with the lathe on my lower. I had to do 2 sets.
Right.
But on the second set, I was like, this is fucking amazing. And then I made my first shifter peg on my lathe. That was super fun. And I know, listen, like guys that run lathes are like, oh, fucking, that's easy. But like, I didn't run lathes. I bought a lathe when I did this build. So like every time I make something new on my lathe, I'm super impressed with it.
Oh, you should be.
Fuck, I had something else I was gonna say that I made. What the fuck was it? Oh, when I made that narrowed, when I made the gas tank for the shovel head, the first one I made, the one that was super, super fucking narrow.
Yeah, dude, that was amazing. You cut that centerpiece out?
Yeah, so I never finished that tank. It still needs to be, like, all the body work needs to be done on it, and, like, I still need to cut out for the petcocks and the fucking cap, but just like that thing, I was like, this thing is so fucking sick. That's probably one of my favorite things that I've done, just because it looked like I made a plan. I even drew out like all of the fucking the cuts that I needed to make. I knew how wide I wanted the finished fucking tank to be, and when it came out exactly how my drawing was, I was just so fucking amped. Like that was like a next level thing.
Yeah,
and I was like, this is fucking sick. I mean, and to like set the story straight, I didn't bang this metal in the shape of a tank. Like I took an old sporty tank, cut it up, and pretty much cut out like the piece that I didn't want to thin it out and make a smaller, like very tiny, almost like teardrop tank.
It came out so great, too.
And yeah, I was just so psyched on the way it came out. I mean, eventually I will finish it. I might even run on the stepchild.
There you go.
But yeah, that's probably one of my most favorite things that I've done. Just because it came out exactly how I wanted it to come out.
Yeah. Let's see. Another new face around here, Neep_paints_it says, what kind of pinstripe paint are you running? The OG One Shot or the new kid Alpha Enamel?
One Shot.
What made you choose that?
So I talked to Maddie and Brandon, and because both of those guys pinstripe, and they both said One Shot. And then I'm a huge fan of YouTube. I know everybody makes fun of fucking YouTube mechanics and blah, blah, blah. If you want to learn some shit, YouTube has it. I promise. And I just started, like, watching. This was before I ordered anything. Just watched tons and tons of pinstriping videos. And everybody uses One Shot. It's like, that's the fucking paint you use. So I just got it. And, like, I got it with the kit that I bought. So I bought a kit with, and I think it came with like 6 colors or something, and it came with some shitty brushes. The brushes sucked, but and then I ordered MAC brushes to go with that. But like I said, the paint came in the kit. I used it, and I love it. The colors are good. It's easy to fucking palette. I don't know. I just like it.
Yeah, if it works, run it. Let's see. We got Mikey_Vaselli says, trying to settle an argument. What do you think is a more reliable chopper platform for long-haul rides? An Evo Sportster or an Evo Big Twin? Interesting question.
That is a good question.
People don't usually ask between these two. They're usually like asking different years of the same bike.
Right.
I'm glad this person left Ironhead out of the equation and didn't waste anyone's time.
So here's what I'll say about this is I don't think... That's a really hard one.
Go through the things that you're thinking about. Like, what are the points that would point you toward a Sportster?
So I really like the Sportster because, I mean, if you're going to build a chopper, the platform's much easier. It's a lighter bike. Mm-hmm. But it comes with the downfall of not having all the power of a Big Twin. It definitely doesn't look as cool. You have, you don't have a separate transmission. Depending on what year Sportster, in my case, you can't run a kicker on it. So I mean, it's really a trade-off. It depends on how much work you want to put in. If you're going to build a Evo chopper, it's going to be easier to build a Sportster chopper. But if you're going to... I mean, I guess it's all preference. They're both solid fucking motors.
Yeah.
I would say that I don't think you can go wrong with either one of them, really. If I was building a bike for long hauls, it would be a big twin though. Something that you can get on the highway and just cruise at fucking 75 and be fine.
Right.
I'd rather have the extra power and not need it than not have it and need it. And I just think they look cool as fuck. And this comes from a dude who has a fucking sporty, an Evo sporty. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I think it also depends on your size, too. Because if you're talking about long haul trips, if you're a bigger, taller guy, it might not be that comfortable if you don't have the leg room. I mean, you could always get forwards.
I'm saying if you're building it, though, like, you could build it to however the fuck you want.
I guess you could stretch it.
If we're talking like stock on stock, I would definitely take the big twin. Because like a stock Sportster sucks.
Yeah, with where everything's positioned.
It's not comfortable.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I don't think either one is unreliable. I know that the Evo Sporty has very, very few problems. I feel like that's
very few problems.
One of the longest running.
It's the longest running motor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the Evo Big Twins, people say the same thing. The only thing they say about the Evo Big Twins is that you want to go after, I believe, 91 is when they switch from the tapered shaft transmission to the spline shaft.
Yeah.
And so gone was the mechanical clutch arm that made it easy to convert it to jockey shift, and then you're into the cable, which kind of sucks. But other than that, people say that the spline shaft was just a better design. But then there's plenty of people running shovel heads with tapered shaft transmissions that run okay.
Right.
I shouldn't say that. They run fine too.
Same with early FXRs.
Yeah, exactly. They have the mechanical arm. And Brandon's snapped off at Deadbeat last year. So I guess that comes with the territory, right? Is like it's not going to be... There's a reason they updated it in the future, but I say if you're comparing like 90s to 90s...
I don't think you go wrong either way.
I don't think either way.
Yeah, it's all about what you want. Because like you could easily do long hauls on an Evo Sporty. You 100% could.
Yeah, a lot of people do. I know that... what's his face there? Soup from Real Low. Speaking of which, I haven't said. Well, I guess everything's canceled because we wouldn't really see him anywhere. But I remember that greenish bluish Evo Sporty chop he had. Him taking that thing like all across the East Coast.
I mean, it's really what you want to do. Like if you want to get on the highway and do a long haul, but be able to cruise at 80, 85,
probably want
do a fucking big twin.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're cool with like 65, 70. I mean, you can do 80 on a Sportster. I've done it.
People are writing in right now.
But it sucks. Like you feel like you're holding on for dear life. Like it sucks.
Right. And I will say that on the big twin, it's fine. I can go 90 on that thing,
right? And
it doesn't struggle to do it.
Yeah.
And that's just a stock 80.
I don't think you can go wrong either way.
Yeah.
I don't. I think it just all depends on what you're trying to do.
I think what you said though is accurate here. As far as reliability, you're looking at the same. But if you want like more available parts and things that you can put on it and just interchangeability, they're both good. But I think this Sportster's probably unrivaled in that department.
100%.
More hardtails,
more than any other fucking bike. I guarantee it.
Definitely. Let's see. Trying to sort through to the more legitimate ones here. Let's see. There we go. Jeremy Becker. The other guy we're going to meet come Deadbeat Retreat, flying out here, seeing I-94, says, would you ever build a 70s style trike?
100%. I'm trying to me and Fat Man are trying to convince Eric.
Oh, yeah.
AKA E on the 40. To let us build him a 70s style trike. I want to build one very fucking badly.
That would be sick.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of trying to build a 70s style trike.
I've seen that one that J.P. Rodman built.
He's a beast
with the roof over it.
Yeah, he is the trike guy.
Sick, dude.
Yeah, he's a fucking beast.
And the Sacred Steel one they built was sick,
would be cool as fuck to build a trike, because that would kind of put me like in the middle of the car and bike shit. So I think it would be really fucking dope.
That's true.
Yeah, because if I build one, it definitely wouldn't be like the Volkswagen one or anything like that. It would definitely be a 350. Or like, even, I really want to build one with an LS. That would be fucking sick. But,
that would be wild.
Yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see. If I stumble upon the platform, then yeah.
Perfect. Let's see here. We got... I guess this is a decent one. If you had 9 lives... This is from Dirty Builds. So you know it's going to be outrageous.
Yeah.
If you had 9 lives, how would you waste the first 6? The rules being every time you die, you respawn at your last checkpoint.
What the fuck?
What kind of crazy shit would you do if you had 6 lives? That's basically the gist of it. We're not going to worry about the respawn like this Call of Duty or something.
I would definitely like to give Tyler a run for his money on the fucking salt flats.
Oh, there you go. It's a good one.
That would definitely be one for sure.
On the shovel with the broken exhaust flange and just hope for the best.
Just sending it.
Just pin it.
The stock 80-inch fucking shovel, just sending it in the salt flats. I don't know. I feel like that's probably about it. Like, what other shit could I do?
Right? What's wilder than that?
That's a weird question.
There's definitely a bunch of weird questions. Do you want to get into some of the weird questions?
Yeah, I don't care.
All right. We'll start off with an easy one. Wannabe Fabrication says, what would be the coolest animal to scale up to the size of a horse?
I want to say a bee, but like that would be scary as fuck.
That'd be wild.
But it would be rad as fuck.
I want to see Denny the size of a horse. I want to see an enormous Clydesdale-size husky.
Clydesdale-size husky.
That would be insane. Fucking beast. All right. Let's see who we got here. Some of these, so like shout out to Jim Reefer here. He said, how long have you been into motorcycles? What led you into choppers? What led you into opening your own shop? And why did you and Grease leave the MC? We pretty much covered every single one of those.
Yeah.
But that was a good question, so I want to give a shout out there. We've also got Seeing I-94. Becker says again, what's one thing that you would make on a vertical mill right off the bat? What is we talked about the vertical mill in previous episodes,
because I've been
right?
saying for a while that I want to get one. So
that's like a Bridgeport, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's my thing is like, when I buy this kind of shit, usually I don't have like shit in mind. Like with my lathe, I was like, oh, it'd be cool if I could do my lowers. But then like, now that I have it, I think of more shit that I can do on my own now that I have a lathe.
Right.
So that's really why I want the Bridgeport. Not because I have like certain projects where I'm like, man, if I only had a Bridgeport. I want the Bridgeport because it's going to push me further to do more shit.
Right. It just opens up the options.
Right.
Opens up another door, if you will. Speaking of which, Into Kink, Covered in Ink, says, if you could be any door in the world, what kind of door would you be?
That'd be your mom's door. The one where she puts the fucking suction cup dildo on.
It had to be done as a response to this question. Let's see. Uncle Charlie's wants to know, what's your favorite dinosaur?
So I don't know what they're called, but so this is funny because I just watched Jurassic Park last weekend on the projector outside. Mm-hmm. And for anybody that's been in my house, being outside at nighttime is super sketchy at my place. Because like you're just surrounded by woods and weird animals.
Yep.
And my hands down, my favorite dinosaur is the little ones where like the flaps come out on the sides of their heads and then they spit like a poisonous venom at you.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what those things are called,
either.
but those things are dope as fuck.
You're going to have to rewatch that just to find out.
Yeah. Or the raptor, because the raptor's like the OG gangster of the fucking dinosaurs.
Yeah, the raptor's fucking badass. Jesus. Bull of Scum wants to know, what's your favorite ICP song? And Jim Morgan X says, this is what the people need to know.
Is this a serious question?
It is, yeah.
So I've never been into the ICP thing, really.
Yeah, I don't know if I could even name one off the top of my head.
I remember one. I can't remember what the fuck it was called, though. It was something about, like, a dating game or something. And, like, they talk shit the whole time about, like, each other's moms and, like, fucking, like, the girl's dad and shit. So that one's kind of cool.
I love it. You guys got to write back in next week. Let us know what song that is.
I want to say it was, like, dating some... I don't fucking know. It was fucking hilarious. But, yeah, I've never really been an ICP fan.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about now.
You know what I mean? When he's, like, talking about, like, having dinner, like, on their date and, like...
Like, where would you take me for dinner? I think I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like talking about putting his nuts in their soup and shit. I don't fucking know. It's funny as hell. I thought it was a funny song.
And then I got one for you here, which is... we can kind of start to wrap things up with this question because we made it through the listener questions, but I want to know, what are all the ways that your life has changed since starting this podcast?
Fuck, dude, I wish I asked you that question. How about that you answer the same question after I answer it?
Fair enough.
So I will say how do I say this here? I think the biggest thing is like the real people that I've met through this podcast. And like the people like Jerry and like Fat Man and obviously Amy. Amy's like fucking family, you know what I mean? It's like,
of course.
I don't know, just the people have been like absolutely amazing. Have like pushed me to be better at the shit that I do and like pushed me to do shit that I would have probably never done.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say that the podcast has definitely made me a more disciplined person.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's a good one.
It has like taught me to like fully commit to shit, and I appreciate that.
That's a big lesson.
Yeah,
I'm definitely in the same boat with the discipline thing. I've always been kind of like fly from one thing to another thing, and never put a ton of time into any one particular thing.
Right.
And this show has definitely strengthened that.
Think about it. What else have you done in your life on the same day, every single week, for over 2 years?
Yep. Fox and I talk about this all the time, how I don't think there's anything in my life that I've ever done as consistently as I have produced this podcast.
Right. They teach you discipline and like sacrifice and like commitment.
And I think the biggest thing is that it shows you what two people can do if they commit that way.
Right.
And get it done. Because all these people like that write in and are like, I'm listening from South Africa.
Right.
And I listen every week. Or like somebody writes in and they're like, hey, thank you for this episode you did on whatever bike we were talking about back then, or talking about something related to welding, and somebody will write to me and say like,
right,
helped me tremendously. Like, thank you so much. I love this podcast. I listen every week. People we've never heard from. And then I just think to myself, like, this is what it looks like when you commit.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that before, just in relation to family and other stuff, and like, in our wives through all this, everything that when you commit to something, it's insane what that thing can build into.
Right.
Whether that's a family, whether that's a show and the community that's around that show, that part has changed my life completely. Of like the power of one person, or in this case, two people,
right, doing
a show, and how many other people's lives can change. And I'm not trying to hype this up like we did something so fucking amazing that no one could ever believe it, but how many people's lives have changed even outside of like their interactions with us, like them meeting other people, and those people meeting other people, and people starting businesses, and people's businesses, like you mentioned Steel City, and I think of Dirty Builds too, and like, the CNC come up and all that. It's like just watching all of these people, and I'm not saying we built these people's brands, I'm just saying that like we met these people before.
Right.
And have been supportive of them throughout their journey, and just watching them explode through all of that. I never would have thought, but we did make a commitment in the beginning, and that's been huge. The idea of you're going to get this on Friday.
Yeah.
Every Friday, every time.
I think my favorite part is the helping people.
Yeah.
Like, hands down. Because we've talked about it a million times. We literally get nothing besides relationships from the show.
Yep.
Like, we don't get paid. We don't take money. We don't do any of that shit. Like, we strictly get friendships. We make connections. And we get to help other people whenever we can. And like you said, like, we're not saying we built anybody's brand. I would never say that. I would never try to take credit for anybody's work. But it's cool to be able to say, like, hey, I have a platform, and I will push this because I believe in what you're doing. I believe that you have the drive, and I believe you're committed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like, I've said that since day one about Steel City. And I've never met him a day in my life. And that kid is my homie. I will literally do anything for that kid. And I've never met him. No, I've never even talked to him on the phone.
Yeah.
Not once. But anytime I get a chance, I will blast that kid's name, his business, and anything I can to make fucking even $1 for him. Just because I know he's committed as fuck. And, like, even through, like, his wife being pregnant and having a new kid and, like, not having a shop set up, he's always grinding and turning out amazing shit. And not, like, overpriced shit that nobody can afford.
Right.
It's like, those are the dudes that, like, I'm so pumped that we have, even the smallest platform. I mean, not saying our platform is pretty fucking big, but...
It's pretty huge, yeah.
But to be able to, like, help people like that is, like, I think the dopest part of the show.
Absolutely.
I feel like we created, like, unintentionally created the platform that we wish we had when we started building jobbers.
That is 100%. I think we talked about that last week a little, too.
Right.
Just how this would have been amazing to have when I was building the XS.
Yeah.
If I could have just, oh, hey, who on this show is, or who else listening, just comment on a post, is from Mass or New Hampshire.
Right.
You know, and then just get linked up with people, and could have met all these people that were here this whole time.
Like, I remember a time where, I remember we were meeting somewhere, and you ended up being like a half hour late because you ran into another jobber guy. Remember the old dude, Frank, or whatever his name was? He
stopped me on my way. I passed him in his driveway in Haverhill, because I actually lived in Haverhill. I don't even mention that last week, but I lived in Haverhill for like 2 or 3 years with Fox, and I was on my way back, and there was a dude standing in his driveway next to an old Triumph. And as I passed him on the XS, he ran over to his bike, started it up, and caught up with me by the time I got to like the center of downtown. Pulled up right alongside me, and he's like, "Do you have a second to stop for coffee?" And I was like, "Sure." And so he had his Triumph that he had a bolt-on hardtail and some nice like slim down bars, not many controls, and we ended up talking. He bought me coffee, and it was just fucking one of those unspoken things of like, oh shit, now the chopper guy, we're gonna talk now.
And that's what I mean is like when we first started doing it, like we literally knew 0 people.
Yeah.
That built jobs, like fucking nobody. And it's like now it's like I could list fucking 100 people right now that build motorcycles.
Everybody, yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the craziest thing is never since school, after I left school, did I find a community. I remember feeling like I was on an island, especially because I moved away. I grew up in CT.
Right.
And then I moved to Mass when I got a bike, and all my friends who rode were in CT. This is before the club, too, and I was like, damn, there is not a lot going on in my social life out here.
Right.
And now to have the community that we have, it's just crazy. I feel like I know more people now than I knew when I was on campus at school.
Yeah.
And I know them better, and I know more about what they do. And it's crazy that
people write in and say the same thing. Like, I just met this dude that literally lives on the same street as me because we both listen to the podcast. Like, how crazy is that? You know what I mean? Like, you just never knew.
Right. And people writing in just saying, it still blows your mind, even though we've done it as long as we've done it. It's crazy to have people writing in talking about, how it gets them through something.
Right.
And you're like, holy shit. Like, to us, it's always just been us here in the studio.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to see like the bigger part of it.
Yeah, but we're not there with whoever's listening in their daily
But I
grind.
get it, though, because, like, I listen to, like, podcasts, like... So I only listen to, like, a few podcasts. And it's like, I legitimately feel like I'm just sitting down chilling with those dudes in the conversation. So I get it, like, when you're, like, fully, like, into a podcast to, like, get that feeling. And I feel like it helps that we're so on top of, like, replying to people when they hit us up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we never... So I don't want to say we're perfect, but I'd say probably 90% of the time we're on top of it when somebody messages us.
Yeah.
Like, within the day, we fucking hit them back and like, yeah, what's up, blah, 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 blah. So, that's huge, too, I think.
Definitely is.
That was a good fucking question.
Yeah, man. That's a good it's a good one to get into, and just as we wind things down to reflect back on how far it's come.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's been a wild fucking ride.
That it has, man, but
I wonder how many people this episode pisses off.
I don't think anybody.
Well, like, how many people are going to be like, what the fuck?
What do you mean? Just because the story...
like, the story is just, like, so ridiculous.
Oh, I think people are going to love it.
I think a lot of people, like...
I think you're going to get a lot of messages
And listen,
from
I'll
people.
say this straight up, like... So we knew about this last week. We came up with this idea. And we did your interview. And then the whole way home, and then all the way until this morning, I was debating on what to talk about. Because, like, I don't tell people... Like, a lot of people don't know about my life. Fat Man knows some of it. You know some of it.
Yeah.
But, like, a lot of people do not know. You know what I mean?
A lot of people are going to know a lot more now.
And it's, like, shit that, like... I don't know. I, like, thought about it a lot. And I'm like, I'm just not going to talk about, like, all that shit. And I figured, fuck it, right?
Yeah.
Let people know what's really fucking up.
I would be amazed if you didn't get a ton of messages this week from people with similar experiences.
Oh, so I made this point last week, and, like, I want to remake this point now.
Yeah.
Is, like, for now that people have heard your story and heard my story, how totally different
Yeah.
our lives were. But, like, the bond that we have is, like, unheard of. You know what I mean?
It is.
It's like...
You would never think that two people from our different backgrounds would be the two to come together
Right.
and produce something like what we've produced with this show.
Right.
Or even just outside of the show, just the two of us, how we've been through fucking thick and thin, through all kinds
Right.
of crazy life shit, and no matter what, we're always still right there, like we were when we first started riding together.
Yeah.
And it's just such a crazy thing. I think it's...
And that's what, like, when I was talking earlier about, like, when we left the club, and I was like, man, I wonder if we're still going to be, like, homies. Because, like, it was easy to see, like, we were totally different fucking people.
Yeah, it
like,
would have been
I've
very
always been
easy.
just, like, a fucking lunatic, like, you know what I mean? Like, hothead, fucking, you're always, like, cool, calm, collected, like, chilling.
It would have been so easy for us to drift apart.
Right.
If there wasn't that... Whatever it is that has kept us doing this weekly and still wanting to do it more.
Yeah.
And like I said, even outside of the show, just still hanging out, getting together, getting the families together.
Right. Yeah, that's the other part. We didn't even talk. Like, our families go camping together, and, like, we haven't done it in a while, but it's like, it's more than just this show.
Yeah.
But
way more than the show.
Like, my point to that is, like, I think a lot of people just, like, judge people because of, like, how their upbringing was. Or, like, how they are. And it's like, it doesn't even fucking make sense. You know, because if either one of us did that, like, this show would have never happened. You know what I mean? Like, we
100%.
wouldn't be homies. It was just like, I don't know.
I had those feelings when I first came into, even when I first came into the club, that people would be like, well, you didn't come from the type of environment that would be respected around this type of person.
Right.
And that, or that like I wouldn't be taken seriously or something like that. And then you come to find that it's like, it doesn't matter a ton where you came from so much as who you are now.
Right.
I mean, to good people. I'm sure there's shitty people that would be like, that would judge you before
for sure.
getting to know you. But the older I get, the more I realize that the backstory is important, but it's certainly not.
Yeah, it doesn't
everything.
define. Yeah.
I meet plenty of people that grew up the way I did that I cannot stand being around.
Yeah.
And
Same
I'm
way.
sure
I
you've
talk to
had the same
anybody
way.
from my own neighborhood now. Well, I mean, most of them are dead, but
But yeah, I think in part of it, I think people have written into and they've asked questions about us and how we work together. And I feel like the reason we work so well together is because of that.
Yeah.
Because we're not the same person. So, like, I'm sure everybody's had that thing where you meet that person that's just like you, and for whatever reason, they're so fucking irritating.
Yeah.
And you're like, no. All the things you're doing are the things that I do.
Yeah.
And I'm, cause like you don't need two of the same puzzle piece to make the puzzle complete.
Right.
Sometimes you get in each other's way when you're too similar. Or you get in each other's lane, I guess is a better way to say it. I think we work really well together because we're not stepping on each other's toes.
Right.
We're not trying to be the same person.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And then you get different... Like I said, people wrote to me after last week's episode to say that they have similar stories and backgrounds and a lot about the music stuff. A bunch of people wrote to me. By the way, thank you to everybody who wrote in about the music.
I was going to say, people write in about that?
Yeah, a bunch of people wrote in. If anybody else is listening, you're trying to get that link, shoot me a DM. I'll get you the URL to it. But yeah, a bunch of people wrote in about that. A bunch of people wrote in about growing up in similar environments and then finding their way into motorcycles and the same thing I was talking about like people who come from that background don't usually have this interest. And so I appreciate all the people that wrote messages like that, and I have absolutely no doubt that you're going to get a fuck ton of messages from people saying that they relate to your story, that they've been through that shit too, and I think it'll make you closer to those people. I can't believe we took this long to do these episodes.
The thing that sucks is, like, I feel like people, and I don't know, this is just me, like, in my whole fucking personality, which you know very much of. I feel like people are going to talk shit. And like,
I don't think there's anything
like,
to talk shit about.
I feel like people are going to think that, like, I tried to do this episode to sound like a badass. And it's like, that was one of the things where I was like, I don't really want to tell my story because, like, not that I'm ashamed of it, but it's like, I hate when people, I don't know.
I know what you're saying.
I don't like when people, like, because I'm not like how I was before. Like, I'm not just like, fucking people up, like, because. You know what I mean? So, like, I hate when people are like, oh. It's like, I don't know. Like, it's cool that people are like, oh, Loctite's a fucking lunatic. But, like, at the same time, like, I hate when, like, everybody's like, Loctite's fucking crazy. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's whatever. I think about it way too much, but.
I think that there's just there's only so many ways you can tell it.
Right.
And it's like, if people take issue with the way you're telling it, one way or another, you have to describe it. And I think you did a fair job being down the middle of, like, here's how it went down, here's who I was back then, here's who I am now.
Right.
And I think that you see the progression. I see the progression from when I first met you to now.
Oh, for sure.
You know, who you were back then. And
Just the progression from when we first started the show.
Yeah.
Like, it was fucking tough. We had some tough times in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. There was some kinks needed to be worked out and all that shit, but I think you've gotten calmer as the show has gone on.
Yeah, for sure.
And we found our stride, we hit the rhythm of the show, but just in general, I feel like there's been less drama in our lives.
Yeah.
And you and I, obviously, we're both big people on family values.
For sure.
And just being good. I know we talk about some crazy shit on here, and in the language isn't exactly the most appropriate, but I think we do a good job of being role models for our kids too. And I feel like that has.
I feel like that's what a lot of people like that only listen to this and like don't know us personally don't know.
Yeah,
but like me and you are like super family. like with the kids. Like we'll blow off a fucking show. You know what I mean? If that's where like the kids want us to be home. And
yeah,
I remember
missing
I feel like a lot of people.
everybody...
Yeah, like I feel like a lot of people don't understand it. But it's like, and like I've said this to people, like I don't give a fuck what you think. Like I will literally fucking murder somebody for my kids.
I feel exactly the same way. Yep.
And it's like, and I've had to express this to people. You know what I mean? Because like people have done some shit that like was on some shit for getting fucked up for. But yeah, I think a lot of people don't know that. People just like know us on here as like the crazy chopper dudes.
Right, and they think it's all about the bikes all the time. But I think it's the other stuff that bridges the gap. You know what I mean? Like if one of us was just like running around single, living that completely different lifestyle,
yeah,
then it's hard to say, you know, do all the differences in the background. I think you need to have some common ground with the person if you're going to come from situations as different as we did.
Right.
And I think that is the bedrock. The values are the bedrock, and then all the other stuff that got you to where you are, that's just like the extras.
I think that's why people dig the show, though, because like we're two dudes with families, with jobs, and building choppers is our passion. Like, I would say, I bet you 90% of the people here have families.
Yeah.
And like are working jobs and are trying to figure out how to do this shit at the same time. Because we get that same question all the time. How do you balance work and choppers and still have time for family? That's like
one of our podcast on top of it.
I bet you that's one of our fucking most asked questions ever in the show.
It absolutely is I would say it's the most asked question.
Yeah. And it's like, so I feel like that's like one of the things that like really hits home with people is like they relate to what the fuck we're doing.
Right.
But
because they're doing the same shit.
Yeah, but like I said, I've told people 100% my kids come first. I don't give a fuck what bike I'm building, what my friends are trying to do. If my kids tell me this is what they need, that's what they fucking need. And
I feel like that's a big part of why so much of the past couple weeks have just been non-shop related.
Yeah.
I've just been spending a lot of time with the kids are home nowadays.
Right.
They're around. There's nowhere for them to go.
Yep.
So we're hanging out more. We're chilling together as a family. My wife works from home and the kids are home with her all day. So when I come home, it's like a breath of fresh air for them. Because like they're seeing something new and like they get to see you and they're like you're gone. Yeah, you come home and then it's like I don't want to just come home and then go straight to the garage because my kids are, I'm sure,
and it's a fucked up time for them. Like
but
the whole like COVID thing is like fucked up for them. You know what I mean? Like our kids don't understand. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're not adults. They're not like, oh, it's just like this. Like to them, like their whole world's been flipped the fuck upside down.
Yeah.
Like you can't go nowhere. You can't play at the park. You can't fucking go to school. You can't do anything. So it's like us coming home is like exciting for them.
Yeah.
And like I could never come home like, and that's why I haven't been in the shop. Is like, well, one of the reasons is like my family wants to spend fucking time with me, and like my daughter is like loses her mind when I come home. Yeah. Like cannot wait, screaming and jumping and want me to pick her up and hang out and play in the yard. Mm-hmm. It's like that's what fucking matters. You know what I mean?
That's what's at the heart of all of this.
Yeah, and like that. Yeah,
I don't want to be the lonely chopper dude with no family.
Yeah. I don't want to be corny about it either. Like my family is like who I am. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like choppers is what I do.
Yep.
So it's like I feel like that's the best way to say it. And like you said, like I don't give a fuck what anybody says because like we've heard it a million times. Like kids make you not be able to do this, and kids suck, and blah blah blah. I would rather not make one show in a summer than be like that lonely ass motherfucker that has no goddamn purpose in life.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And like that's not saying anything to people that don't have kids or can't have kids, but that's how I feel. Like I would rather not ride my motorcycle one time than not have my children.
Yep.
And that's just a fact.
I think that it would be very difficult to have kids and not feel that way.
Yeah.
It just gives you such perspective about all this, finding a way to make this all fit together. And I talk about this with Fish Tank a lot too, because he's got kids, he understands, and a lot of other responsibilities on his plate.
Dude, he's such a good fucking dude.
He is.
Like he is like the most like modest. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Like the most modest dude. Like builds super fucking clean bikes. Like that Triumph it's a fucking show bike.
Yeah.
That thing
All
is
his bikes
gorgeous.
are so well executed.
But he's the most low-key dude. Like, doesn't give a fuck. This is his second year not making it to Deadbeat.
Oh, I forgot he's not coming to Deadbeat.
But, like,
fuck.
in his mind, like, he knows, like, I gotta be home. I have a newborn child.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like...
And he planned a trip with his wife that was going to be the other weekend, and then Deadbeat got moved.
Right.
So the trip with his wife falls on the same week. I'm like putting his personal business out here, but it's a good story about you, homie. Don't worry. So he's prioritizing the family over Deadbeat, and
he's
I
just a
respect
good
it.
fucking dude.
And that's what we're
he's a
talking
veteran.
about.
He's just a fucking solid motherfucker. Yeah, those are the kind of people that I love.
Absolutely, man.
We're like all fucking mushy and shit. People are not going to believe we built choppers.
In the feelings hard, they're like, yeah, fuck, after 3 hours it got deep.
People are not going to... They're like, these dudes don't build choppers.
Well, let me hit them with something that they are more familiar with. Those motherfucking sponsors that make this show possible. We got to thank a couple of people here. First up, we've mentioned her several times. B3, Babes, Bikes, and Beards, Whiskey Eye, and Chris Pizzo out there in the Chelsea, Massachusetts area.
Finally get to see the homegirl next weekend.
Yes,
at the motherfucking Deadbeat Retreat.
Also, got a big one here. Let me read this out. So, B3 rides. We talked last week on the show about how important it is to ride with a club and get that tight riding experience.
Right.
And how could people do that if they don't get involved in a club? And B3 rides, she says, are designed to teach that. We do leveled rides to teach folks. They just have to ask. Join the Slack and learn the right way to ride with other people. So, that is cool.
That's dope.
Take them up on that. Join the Slack team. Get set up with these girls so that you can get some experience riding in a pack. Learn the fucking hand signals. And not be the guy that nobody wants to ride with next time you fucking go.
And I promise you, I don't care who you are, what background you came from. When you meet Amy and Chris, you will absolutely love these chicks.
Yeah.
They are fucking amazing. So absolutely. You will have a good time.
Next up, we got Lowbrow Customs. Everything you need for the road ahead since 2004. Longtime sponsors of the show. Everybody knows who Lowbrow is. I just ordered more shit from them very recently. I get pretty much everything comes from them, or at least one thing for every build. Lowbrowcustoms.com, Lowbrow Customs on Instagram, and they got a YouTube channel. And if you want to hear Tyler on this show, check out the episode called Milwaukee Murderer. We had him on and talked all about how Lowbrow got started.
Definitely check out the YouTube channel. They put up some dope-ass content.
Yeah, they just had the whole, his panhead build. I just
sure,
saw went out on
yet.
the email. Tyler's panhead build and like all the different steps to building the bike.
I haven't seen that one yet. So they did one with Shovelhead. It was like a full maintenance of the Shovelhead motor. And like he goes through like the different fucking Shovelheads. It's dope. Yeah. Definitely check out the YouTube channel.
Next up, we got Deadbeat Customs.
Steve, the motherfucking homie, the creator of Deadbeat motherfucking Retreat, where all the scumbags go to die. I promise you, you do not want to miss this. This year, this is literally the only fucking show. Even Bone Free got canceled. Ooh. Not Deadbeat. Deadbeat's still here. So get your fucking tickets now. Go to deadbeat.com. Use Lowlife in the motherfucking coupon and save some goddamn money.
Love it. Next up, we got Hypnic Jerk Customs out of Australia. The homie Cam is the fucking man behind the dopest taillights in the game, so that you don't have to ride around with a Model A taillight like everybody else. Get yourself one of his new designs that he's got coming out. He does a lot of stuff, so make sure you're checking the site frequently because he's always coming out with new things. Points covers, taillights, headlights, and he does custom work. So if you want something particular, he can make it. Hit him up at Hypnic Jerk Customs on Instagram or hypnicjerkcustoms.com. Next up, we got Faro Fabrication, yours truly, located in Londonderry, New Hampshire, for all of your welding, fabrication, and repair needs. If you've got a project that needs that special touch, I got the fucking TIG welders to make it happen. So go to Ferro, Ferro Fabrication on Instagram or ferrofabrication.com. You could drop me a line over there too and see a bunch of the past projects that I've been working on. Last but not least, we've got the man you heard from on tonight's episode, Loctite's Chop Shop.
Gonna be located at the motherfucking Unicorn Ranch. We do full builds, maintenance, whatever the fuck you need. Hit us the fuck up and make sure you are following the Unicorn Ranch page on Instagram where you can get all your vinyl needs. Decals, hats, shirts, coffee mugs, koozies, whatever the fuck you need. Hit us up.
All right, so to close this one out, I will say, now that you know all about your loyal hosts, you gotta get your ass to Deadbeat and die with us both.
Yes. God, that would have been perfect for next week. Oh shit.
Oh shit, yeah, that's right. It's not.
Next week is fucking Deadbeat.
Yeah.
Holy fuck.
We're gonna have to record on Tuesday, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, we gotta get this episode out, because I'm gonna be there on Friday. Oh no, I'll be at your house on Thursday. We'll have internet. We're good. You're gonna get the episode, motherfuckers. Don't worry about it.
You'll still get it.
What do you got for these people?
It's Friday, motherfuckers. That's my life story. Hopefully we're still friends. But either way, ride fast, die young, and leave a beautiful corpse.